All right, here we go. Good evening, everybody. My name is Conall, the Cigar DM. I am being joined tonight by Omenau. Hopefully, we'll get our favorite little Dutch boy and the Shadow, because Shadow already knows. With that being said, tonight's kind of be free form. We're going to talk about some gaming stuff, maybe throw in some news related things like those poor bastards down in Florida had to deal with the hurricane this past week and the one's about ready to hit. I think it was California this coming in the next couple days.
I feel this sounds terrible. I haven't really kept up on it, even though my parents are in Florida.
Oh no!
Well, no, I mean I hate saying this is, and no one really wants to talk about it, but I mean I've been through several hurricanes when I lived in Florida, and usually if you're not in low-lying areas, you're okay. It's just the best description is you get your adrenaline pumping, and it's going, and it's going, and you're like, yeah, and then the wind comes over, and you lose power, and all you see is a bunch of wind blowing outside, and you get tired, and you go to bed, and you wait until the power comes on. And the sad thing about Florida is once you lose power, is then you have to keep your refrigerator closed if you want to keep the meat good, and then you have to you just have to suffer through the air conditioning. But they're usually pretty. The linemen are usually fantastic. They usually get power, but some areas it takes longer. But yeah, if you're right on the water, that's where they always take the pictures of it being the worst.
Oh
But
yeah.
a lot of people are. I don't want to say is they're a lot more resilient than I think the media makes them out to be.
Well, the human condition, I tell you, it can take damn near anything as long as there's something to keep going. It will keep going.
Oh yeah. No, I do feel sorry for the people who are flooded, and that's always one of the worst things with the storm surge. And the strange thing was my parents lived pretty close to the coast, but not enough for the storm surge. But it was 30
Somewhere in the
miles
middle.
inland. And
Oh,
man,
so,
what's
where?
up? Hmm?
Sorry. Where are your parents located? I mean, I don't want you to dock them out, but because
Well,
I
it's
knew.
Northwest Florida, so basically
Okay.
it's a bunch of military bases. I like to call it Lower Alabama. Uh,
Oh, okay.
so
Got post. Gotcha.
So they're right there. They got hits in '95. We had two eyes basically go right over where we were. The first one was a Category 1, knocked out a lot of the trees. I mean, broke branches, so it took 3 days to recover power. The second one was a Category 3, and that one caused that one wasn't so bad because pretty much the first one knocked down all the tree limbs, so we got power faster for that one. But that one was coming in. That one hit a category. It was up to 150 miles per hour. I'm like, oh wow. So yeah, I mean, I always feel sorry for people who are right on the Gulf Coast, but I hate saying this. If you live on something called a barrier island, there's a reason they're given those names.
Oh man, my aunt family lives basically right at the tippy top of Florida. Right, you spit one direction, you're hitting Georgia, and you're probably 30 minutes north of Jacksonville.
Yeah, yeah.
So it seems that her location looks out. It's a small little island plantation type place. A very beautiful, very, very well. It takes money to live there, and well, I'll never live there. Um, let's be honest about it. But I'm happy being poor-ish. Less issues I find when you're poorish. That seeing both sides, how both sides live.
Sure.
Anyways, but no, this past hurricane just like made a beeline right up the damn coast. Everybody's getting smacked around, right? It decides to get to where my aunt lives. Says, hops over it and goes right into Georgia. And I'm like, why? Your island should be flooded. It should be the lost island of, not, whatever. Then just, I don't know. And she lives right off the coast. So, I mean, you could see the ocean from her condominium. I mean, oh my God, the summers I spent there as a kid. I'm only saddened that I cannot do the same for my daughter. Let's put it that way.
Oh,
Um,
well, where parents are, as they call it, the Redneck Riviera.
oh yeah.
So, well, you get a lot of people from Alabama and stuff coming down. It's near Destin, Florida. Um,
Okay.
but my parents live on the opposite side of the bay, so they're pretty. They don't get hit by the storm surge nearly as much, but they live close enough to the bay that the water drains out. But you go about 30 miles north, like you said, and I think it was Edward or something, or one of them. It sits there just like very similar to what happened with Hurricane Harvey and just dumps water. And that's the horrible part because everything gets flooded. It's there's only so much water that can drain so quickly. So I do feel sorry for people that get flooded, but it what I feel really sorry for are the people that move there that are not native because they don't understand. It's just like when it's like a southerner going up to Chicago or Wisconsin then complaining about the snow.
You just don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I live where I live in the central of Illinois, so we get snow. We've had some major snowstorms over the years. I've also had the benefit of going like skiing in Colorado a few dozen times. Not a few dozen, probably about a dozen times. And so I understand what snow is.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of I even lived up in Chicago over a winter, and I made up my mind never do that nonsense again.
Good
Uh,
man. No, I'm just.
Fuck, the structure right. Winter is coming, and it's a bitch. Uh, you know, up until like what feels like 12 years ago, where I'm living now used to be known as Tornado Alley, and it's the weather pattern for at least that aspect of has moved further north Illinois. So I feel bad for the people that is now dealing with it, but at the same time, and I know that makes me sound like a dick, but it's like,
Well, I
well,
mean, Tornado Alley is such a big area. People forget just how far. I mean, it goes all the way up into northern Texas, almost to where I am, and then it goes
yeah,
all the way up. I'm goes up to what, the Dakotas or something. I mean, it's a
yeah.
huge area, and you look at it and you can see that the line as it goes across. And I mean, not that this happened to me, but a few years ago, I think it was south of us by about 30 minutes. There was, I guess it was like 20 or 30 years ago, a major tornado, I think killed like 40 or 50 people.
Oh, that
Uh,
sucks.
yeah, I mean, it's a no joke, and that's the other thing with hurricanes, which a lot of people forget about, is I was in Florida during Andrew, which was the Category 5 that basically leveled a lot of stuff down south.
I remember Andrew.
And when there's a Category 5, I mean, that's like a nuclear bomb. Now, admittedly, I was in Orlando. I was in a barracks, so we were pretty safe. But I remember sitting there talking to some guy from Homestead, and he was moving. He's like, there went all of my goods. I was like, oh
Homestead. Wow.
yeah. I was
I
like,
know
oh.
Homestead. I know Homestead.
So I felt really sorry for him. I mean, it's but that said, is like I think my father nowadays, he got a generator. Ivan damaged his house, so he put on a metal roof on top of it. So basically, if the roof goes, the house goes. He put. I mean, he bolted that thing. I mean, he got someone come in to bolt it on, and then they've got these storm shutters. So my mother was out last weekend putting up the metal all around to protect the windows. So well, okay, me being an engineer, I'm like, all right, if I'm going to build a house, it's going to be made out of concrete. That's which I think is what happens in Puerto Rico and some of these other areas. It's the houses there they know that they're going to get hit by these hurricanes, and they build them sturdy and strong. So
Man, Puerto Rico. That island just can't seem to catch a break. It or Cuba.
yeah, well, it's the sad thing is I've met several people that live in Puerto Rico. They all talk about how beautiful and everything else it is, but then you talk to the Puerto Ricans and you realize, unfortunately, and I guess it's true of a lot of areas, the government is pretty corrupt. So instead of being efficient, that's where the real problem comes from. So people leave, and being an island, it is hard, to get everything there for industry and things. So
Oh yeah.
But everyone I've known who's from Puerto Rico has a deep love of Puerto Rico, but they couldn't find a job, and so they moved away. So that's how I feel. That's where I feel sorry for them.
I got a lady that lives up the road from me. I mean, my neighbors give her some kind of hell because they all think that she's Mexican. Immigrant,
Yeah.
and they're like this, and I went up and talked to her one day. I'm like, so where are you from? And she's like, I don't know, almost 70 years old. And she's like, I'm from Puerto Rico. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So they started razzing her again, telling her to go back to Mexico. And I'm like, dude, she's Puerto Rican. She can be here. It's okay.
Well, she's an American. What gets me about it is I've talked to, because a lot of people around the military work with a Puerto Rican. A lot of them are from Puerto Rico,
Right.
And they had that naval air base out there, or I think that was anyway. They were doing bombing runs and stuff, and the guy was out there. Said it was a great job. We worked. We did everything, and all of a sudden we get these outside agitators that come in, say, "Oh no, it's destroying all these people." They get a few, and then the whole government shuts it down. He says, "What the hell, man? I got to move. I got to go somewhere else to get a good job." And I said, yeah, I was like, oh wow. That's why sometimes when you hear things in the news, I really wish that they would interview more people that lived around the area to get a more balanced perspective. But that's asking an awful lot of our media.
Both sides. Jesus, I have somebody, no one we all know it. Sent me a clip of a British. Was it British? It was a European news clipping of them, all those immigrants, like a particular day immigrants, and all loading on buses, and they had circled down the date. Then the next part of the clip shows them re-airing the video on like a couple weeks later.
Oh, our media does. Apparently, they do that whenever you hear about measles outbreaks. They keep using the same kids from 20 years ago.
It's like, so I'm like, okay. It just kind of threw me off. I'm like, that's just kind of weird. But
I know. Things are so weird about it, and this is why I tell my son. He's like, well, is this a trustworthy news source? I said, or is it biased? I said, I don't care if it's biased. Just be truthful. I said, I can deal with someone that's biased, and I don't mind on which side you're biased as long as I get the story, But when you start editing it deceptively, which is the problem that I have, I said, look, I listen to a lot of right wing stuff. I listen to some left wing, and I said, okay, but let's get the whole story from it. Stop over editing, and when it comes to the news media, if it bleeds, it leads. And I said, well, that's I feel dumber for sometimes watching the news because I have to spend more time trying to figure out what the lies were versus what was the actual truth. So I get pretty well, the same thing happened when I was in Iraq or Afghanistan. I'd see something, but that is not what it was like where I was.
When I moved to the States, when the internet became a huge thing, right? And YouTube became a huger thing. I don't know if you can still do it, but you could watch old news clips.
Uh-huh.
And my friend had me sit me down. This was back when I was high school, and I was in Ireland during the 90s, right? So I was there for the fireworks. And I'd watch some of these old news clippings, and I'm like, no, that's not. No, wait, what? No. And I'm like, okay, no, what do you guys think of us?
Well, the problem is that I think that they looked at one area of Belfast, and that was it.
Right.
And yet, what I thought was interesting was I had I was taking computer science classes and I was doing security. So I had one of the roaming professors was there, and he said he met a man in Belfast, and says, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Well," and he was from Los Angeles. He said, "Oh, I came here because it's safer than Los Angeles." And yet, by listening to the news, you would think that Belfast was like a complete war zone, and it's true of a lot of areas, even whether it's Chicago or things like that. There tend to be pockets of it, but it's not everywhere. Otherwise, there'd be no one in the city. So,
Oh my god! I was watching the news today. That was my first mistake. I was watching the news, and there's like these women dressing up in green suits, uh, green suits, beating crap out of other people in the subway, and they're called the Green Goblin gang.
oh geez.
Oh yeah, and it was on Fox. It was on Fox News. I'm like, should I trust this? Green Goblin. I looked at the person next to him. He's like, okay, I'm moving to New York, and I'm getting a bunch of other females to dress up like Spider-Man, so we can have a Spider-Man versus a Green Goblin gang. And he's like, that's horrible. I'm like, I think it's hilarious.
I do too, except here's the problem is I can just see all the webs getting stuck everywhere, and you're like, oh man, I tried to walk through them. I don't know. Have you? I know they have them up there. I don't know if you've been out towards the woods. Did you ever see those big orange? They're like black and gold orb weavers.
Oh yeah,
and they do these webs up to like 20 feet wide, and people don't realize that. You know how many times I've almost walked into one of them? I mean, like I'll stop like 3 inches in front of my face, and I'll see this big spider right there, like whoa. And I hate whenever you run into it because you don't know if the spider's on you. And you're like, ah, you know, they're pretty harmless, but
there's
but,
the.
yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know the correct name for them, but there's one in Florida. It's orange and black. I think it's orange and black. Forgive me for the color blindness issue, but it looks like something straight out of a horror movie. I'm like, ugh. You find them on palm trees. Just they're in the palm trees, like looking at you. It's like, what's up, Holmes? And I'm like, you can go do you wherever you want there, Hoss. You know what? I call you the new owner of said house. I quit.
So you know, child custody issues. Anyway, my son was coming up to see me because we finally had it resolved up when I was in Chicago. So I was in Texas. She had found this brown Texas spider. Anyway, it's a tarantula. Anyway, so she put it out there. Well, she used chicken wire, thinking that the thing was too big, not realizing that the body can mush a little bit because it doesn't have a skeleton. Hey, Victor.
Hey, guys.
So it escaped the day before she left, and she's like, "Oh," and she was bringing my son up because he was like 4. Anyway, so I just thought it was. So yeah, and at the time she also had her niece there, who was sleeping on an air mattress on the floor and talking about freaking out because there's this wandering tarantula in the house somewhere, and they did find it 6 weeks later, oddly enough, alive. But I thought that was pretty funny.
Somebody, the question this Halloween, since it's Halloween, I normally get asked this question, not a lot, but it's a common question. It's like, what was the first horror movie you remember seeing as a kid? It depends on, who you are, how reasonable your parents are, what your answer is. I'm of the generation where my first answer should be like, what, Gremlins, maybe?
I think, no, I'm not saying I didn't see stuff. I just remember looking at some of the stuff I have to laugh at because it's the old TV movies. But I'm thinking
Thousand Eyes.
I'm thinking I saw bits and pieces, to be fair. One was Jaws.
Right.
But I only saw like 5 or 10 minutes. I think the first one I remember seeing was it Cat's Eye with the Stephen King one?
The short stories, the anthology ones. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, with 3
Halle Berry. About Creepshow.
Yeah.
I've seen Creepshow. I didn't see Creepshow until I was older. My mom decided that she wanted to go see the new Aliens movie. It was Aliens, a sequel, which came out in 85. The first one came out in like 79. So definitely I was not around for that one. So, and it was at a drive-through back when they used to do double features. And, even they did with Star Trek. They show like the one before, then they show the new one. So the, audience or catch up. Well, my very first horror movie I actually remember seeing, unfortunately, was Alien and Aliens 2. So I'm not terrified of spiders. the movies didn't help. Then to follow that up, I think I saw Terminator. So I have this like serious distrust for all things computer.
Well, you should.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, it's a technology age. You really need to get into computers. I'm like, no. I can still cook without them.
You know what I have to laugh at is this. What I tell my son is I said, when you're young, you're afraid of everything, like dark, noises everywhere else. I said, when you get older, you're afraid of the tax man and running out of toilet paper in a public stall. Those are your two big fears as an adult.
I mean, the second one's goodbye socks. Don't care. Goodbye socks. The tax I've actually looked out. This is like the first year I actually had to file taxes where I wasn't working for somebody else. Oh my God, that hurt. That hurt all the way around.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do this again.
Well, for taxes, I saw the IRS actually usually treat me really well because I have like the really simple one. Like, oh, you missed this deduction here. We're going to give it back to you. And so I've had like really good luck with the IRS. We'll see about this year because I've got, we'll see about this year because I have the farm so I can start itemizing deductions. But
oh my God, they're like, make sure you bring all your receipts. Like, all of my receipts? They're like, yeah. Okay. Crap. Okay. And like, so what is this thing for? I need it for my business. What is it used for? I'm like, do you really want to know, or do you just need it known for my business? They're like, I'm just curious. It's what I use to braid sweetbread. They're like, what's sweetbread? I'm like, organ meat. Ew. It's like, oh my God. It's like, it's necessary. I'm like, kinda, yeah.
Well, if you're a chef, how can you say no? It's like, I do cook this.
America's like one of the few countries that doesn't eat awful.
Yeah. OFFAL.
Yeah.
Well, so I was in Iraq, and speaking of which, and so they were driving around, and the Jan, who was with me, who's an Assyrian, he went over and stopped at the side of the road and said, "Hey, all the Iraqi kids eat this." And he pulls off what looked like pods. Anyway, breaks them open. So very similar to almost like peanuts, not in taste, but as far as look. He does that, and he says, "Here," and he takes a bite of one. I was like, "Oh, okay." So I'll take a bite. I take a bite. I'm like, "This is horrible." And I said, "Do you like it, Jan?" He's like, "No, I don't like it either." He says, he says, if you eat too many of them, you become constipated.
Oh.
And so it was one of those things like, oh, okay. So anyway, we came back, and there was another Assyrian I worked with by the name of Basil. So Basil's like, oh yeah, as kids, what we would do is they would crush them into powder and mix it with sugar. And they'd be like, we would be so constipated. I was just like yeah, that short-term gain, if anyone ever watched The Simpsons, where he goes over and he's drinking too much alcohol, and he goes over and they're like, "Dad, you shouldn't be mixing hot sauce and milk and alcohol together." He's like, "That's future Homer's problem. That's not my problem."
I mean, fair enough.
So anyway,
I should have said that to myself when I got married. That's future Conall's problem, not mine. So what have you been up to, Victor?
I was just gaming with some friends. I pretty much spent like half the day building my Kickstarter. So that's
so what is your Kickstarter? Just curious. And what's that going to be?
Well, I can share it real quick. The preview.
Sure.
Hey, it's free advertising for you now.
Yeah, pretty much. I'll put it in the private chat.
Don't say the free word. Damn it.
Oh, okay.
How else am I going to get my Dutch cookies? I don't know. All right, what am I looking at? Is it a video or just something to look at?
It's just something to look at. I might make a video in the next few days while I'm waiting for this to like basically get approved. But
okay,
well, I can share a screen and show people what it is, or
yeah, let's do the share screen. Go for it.
Okay. It helps if I go back and actually, I know how to do this. I really do. Share settings, present.
And tell the audience this is
Yeah, hold on. Give me a
technical
second.
difficulties. You're all guinea pigs into learning StreamYard.
Yeah.
That's not it. Well, I'll make it work. All right, stop camera, mute, set, presenting.
Should be a share screen button, and then just share whatever screen it's on, whatever page it's on, and then you can add it to the stream as like you add a person.
I don't actually have a share one. Hold on.
Present screen maybe? Does it say present? Present?
Yeah, present. All right. Extra camera, video file. Present.
I guess you changed the wording because I could have sworn it was share screen before, but I don't know.
We gotta keep changing the wording so it sounds like we're in a cooler, application.
Yeah, it's present stream. I'm sorry, I'm an idiot.
Okay.
All right. Well, not really, but I play one on TV.
I only play a 4 intelligence dwarf.
And then you go to.
All right. This is it?
Yep.
Let's see it. All right. Okay. So what am I looking at?
It's my 5th edition book that adds like modern equipment and classes, and it's basically to let you play modern settings with 5e.
Oh, okay. So it's almost like Shadowrun with
yeah, or D20 modern. It's my take on D20 modern, basically, by using 5e.
Okay, cool.
And you can scroll down and yep.
What is the Modern Adventurer's Guide to Guns and Gears? Oh, so this will be a hard copy and digital, I see.
Yeah, and softcover. You can pledge different things.
So I'm going to ask you a quick question, just on, because I don't know how the publishing works out there. Are you getting it published in, was it Lithuania, or are you getting it published locally, or how's that work?
I'm doing Drive-to-RPG, so it's going to be print on demand.
Oh, okay.
So basically, once the people that pledged for the softcover, the hardcover, they get a code to go to Drive-to-RPG, and then they can just print it at cost. So they still pay they pay the printing cost themselves and the shipping. That's the way people do it apparently these days, because it cuts down on like logistics.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Printing is like $5 for like a softcover. So
awesome.
All right. So let's look at these pledges.
Well, remember, these pledges are still not finalized, so.
Right, yeah, right, and yeah, that's fair. All right, for €3, $3 in euro.
No, well, actually, you know what? The euro's less than $1 now. We can save money.
All right, basic project support. So basically, supporting you.
Mm-hmm.
Your name will be credited in the book. So if you want to get your name in his book, this is how you do it. Does it have to be the legal name? Because that could be fun if it isn't.
No, it can just be whatever.
All right.
It's not offensive, I suppose. So I don't care too much. But don't be like you can think of plenty of offensive stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, my name is Adolf.
Yeah,
because that would go over as well as lead duck. Pledging €10 or more will get you a digital copy of the book as a PDF and your name credited in the book.
Yep.
25, printed softcover copy of the book, a digital copy of the PDF, and your name credited in the book.
Yep.
And $40. Now, this is where we're starting to talk. Hardcover print on edition and digital.
Okay.
For also, you get your name credited in said book.
Yep. Everyone gets a name in the book, basically.
All right. Look at. I know these don't get any bigger. Okay.
Well, I mean that's fine. Let's just scroll down. Just keep scrolling down on it, and let's.
All right. Look at these bullets. Magical bullets. Silver bullets for your Lugaroos. Radiation bullets for your ex-wives or mother-in-law. Electric bullets. Because sometimes a stiff shock of electricity is all you need. Your frost bullet not to be mixed up with your frigid wife. A fire bullet. Well, if I need to explain that one to you, ladies and gentlemen, we're all in trouble. A necro bullet. Bringing back your friends, one bullet at a time.
Oh, that would be interesting. It's like, oh, if you shoot them, they become a skeleton.
Yeah.
Or zombie.
Acid bullet. This bullet will take you places you never knew you can go. Star metal. That's cool. Actually, that's really cool. And Vorpal bullet. Now, remember, you need 5 nat 20s for this to actually be useful. That's probably not true, but it's Vorpal, so it can go.
Basically, it's like Insano, like armor piercing, like stuff like that. So
it's gotta be expensive as hell.
Yeah.
Well. Here's being a gun guy myself.
Mm-hmm.
Does it do reduced damage?
Yeah, like so. It's basically not a hollow point, if armor piercing round on crack. And armor piercing rounds, they do 1 die less of damage, 1 die step. So if it's normally does like a d6, it does a d4 instead. But it also does better against armor.
Very, very good. No, I like that. And
then hollow points are basically the opposite.
Well, and the interesting thing, and no one really wants to talk about it because military rounds, everyone thinks are great. But if you want to kill someone, go grab a hunting round.
Yeah,
those things really expand. They dump all the energy into you. So.
All right, so ammo contain.
I'll be back in a minute here.
Yep.
All right, we got a gobbo bag. Is that like a doggy bag full of bullets?
Yeah, it's like a hamburger brand bag. I think the artist drew with like a little logo on it. So it's like a greasy hamburger bag with ammo in it.
That's funny as hell. The elven bag. The elven is what, a bunch of leaves rolled up.
Yeah, it's like wrapped leaves.
Okay, the Dorish actually looks pretty cool. Orc looks like, well, a hippie bag.
Yeah, it's like a woven bag thing.
All right. We got your basic tools.
Yep, and attachments. Modifications.
That's cool. Now fun stuff. All right, we got your Motel cocktail, your pipe bomb, your regular grenade, your stun grenade. What is the cube thing?
I think that's like basically just like a weird magical grenade that does like void damage or like something like that. I basically have like rules. Like if you want to make your own magical grenades, just like do this and this and this. And then the artist just had fun with it, just drawing stuff.
So, Victor, who's your artist? Just out of curiosity.
I have like a bunch of artists. One of them is called Galen. He's like really good. He did like all those grenades and weapons. I've got the basic expert as an artist. I've got a guy called Adam Black who's also really good. And then I have what's his name? Carlos. Yeah, Carlos something, like some South American name.
Now, with the basic expert, do you just have to browbeat him until he do it?
No.
No?
I mean, he's my friend, so, he was happy to do it.
That's called browbeating for all those who are curious.
I mean...
Now
he's getting money out of it, so...
well, that's not browbeating. That,
Yeah.
Pay your artists, because their worth is normally worth it.
I hate saying this as much as people talk about these. That's one of the reasons I hated Traveler, is I looked at it and like, it's just lines of text.
Yeah, classic Traveler, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Mongoose Traveler's not nearly as bad. No, they really need to up their artwork. But
yeah,
but that's said, is the whole point of why I look at Traveler and I look at Star Frontiers is Larry Elmore did a much better job as far as getting me to imagine being in that world. Whereas in Traveler, it's kind of like, well, here's a rule set. Good luck.
Yeah. This is another artist I had. This is some friend paid that for me.
Okay, cool.
That's kind of looks like Wolverine.
Yeah, it's like a kind of a mix between Wolverine, Black Panther, and like Kraven the Hunter. It's a half orc superhero.
You know what it reminds me of was Deflator Mouse.
Yeah, that's
that. Lord.
But if you look at the bottom, it says it has like a little text, descriptive text there.
Okay.
So he's Walkman.
Down here, Wargman, Oath of the Vengeance Paladin, Gotcha.
Vigilante. Yeah, Oath of the Vigilante.
Your cleric. Sweet.
Victor, about how many pages are we looking at here?
Right now it's about 200, and
Oh,
that's I'm still writing some stuff, and that's like without most of the art. So
that's pretty hefty. I
Yeah.
thought that
Yeah.
that's a good. That's pretty good.
Now, as much as I enjoy your company, I appreciate you being on tonight's show. I'm not doing all 200 pages.
no, the Kickstarter isn't 200 pages.
Oh, okay.
The book is 200 pages. No, the Kickstarter being 200 pages would be ridiculous.
Well, here's the other thing, Conall. Then why would he be selling it? It's like,
Yeah.
"Here, everyone."
Yeah, just copy and paste all the images.
That's right.
Yeah, man.
These are cultural firearms, as I call them. So, like, I basically have a chapter like, what would guns be like if orcs made them? What would guns be like if elves or dwarves or goblins made them? Stuff like that. So they have like different pros and cons.
Okay.
So, like, an orc gun, it's less accurate, but it also like doesn't really jam. It's basically like Russian guns on like ×2.
I like the revolver in the bottom right corner.
There's some samples of like modern NPCs. Oh, that's some basic expert art there. The lizard man that's coming up.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
With the break action shotgun.
Yeah, it's like a hillbilly lizard man. With a truck ahead and everything.
You know what? I actually like that probably more than the more detailed art. Because that's the kind of thing that actually inspires me, like, to get your brain going.
Yeah. I wanted a bit of an OSR feel. Plus, it saves money, so I went with black and white art. I mean, if this makes like $100,000, like somehow, then I might throw in some color pieces here and there. But yeah.
Well, I mean, you know what though is you could always say, yeah. I mean, I don't mind black and white. That's what I grew up with as a kid.
Yeah.
But speaking of first edition versus second edition, first edition was all black and white. Second edition books started coming out in full color.
Yeah.
In many cases, and it made a difference. That's one of the things where while everyone can complain about WotC, though I don't like the newer stuff of the art, it is very colorful for the books, and it's easy on the eyes. You get spoiled because I have those, and I look back at some of my older books and like, that's,
all right.
If you go up a little bit, that last art piece, not that one, but the one above, I really love that one. That was by Carlos. And you might guess the reference.
Oh, yeah. Legendary Monster Hunter, Earl Gromer. Yeah.
So it's basically a reference to Burt Gummer from Tremors, but as a half-orc who is a monster hunter in my setting.
What
call
this
him
reminds...
Earl Gromer. Oh, so good.
What this reminds me of is because when I thought 5e modern, I wasn't thinking, all the different races is, Shadowrun in many cases is what I'm thinking of. But some people have different versions. I don't know how I felt about it. Everyone has different feelings towards different game systems, and I know while Shadow doesn't like it, I actually like if you're going to bring out a new edition, bring a different game system. That sounds weird, but part of me would rather say I'd rather spend the money for a different game system than just to get something that's slightly tweaked. To me, that's like a half edition or something, and I'm like,
I have to say though, back on the pictures, if you want me to get interested in any kind of book for whatever system, it's the drawings and the pictures in the book that get me there.
Yeah. Well, the Kickstarter is basically just to fund more art. Like the writing is about 80-90% done. I've got a person that's doing the editing and the layout that I've already paid. So yeah, like the money that I'm asking is pretty much to get more art and just make it look cooler.
One thing I would love to see, which is exactly, sup nerds, exactly. But I was looking at something. I said because it's been hard. I said that's the problem with too many math books. Is if they put it more in D&D terms, people would be much better at math.
Yeah.
Oh God, where was math? Well, now that they're presenting math with D&D for school, which is like, I'm of two minds on the matter. But I wish they would have had it back when I was in high school. I mean, I know D&D was the thing back in high school, but I wish it was something acceptable I could do in high school and get an A in class for it, because I would have been all about it, because between reading and math, there's a lot of basic, education. Yeah, that's the word I'm going to use. Education tools that go into a lot of these RPG games.
Well, like I hear all these people complain about high Gygaxian. I looked at it and I said, okay, part of me was not reading like I should have as an 8-year-old, but that's because I would skip over to find anything that was going in there. But I actually prefer reading stuff that's at a higher level when I was a kid, and then reading something at newspaper level. I understand that it may not get everyone, but kids are smarter than we give them credit for, and
That's fair. I like to say newspapers is probably for your common reader. Anybody, most people should be able to at least have enough reading capability to read a newspaper.
Yeah, I think that newspapers are written at a 7th grade level.
That probably, yeah, I can see that.
No, I mean that's what they were written at. And to be fair, I'm not trying to knock it, but my grandfather graduated in 8th grade. That was the last thing that he did. That was people look at it and I went, well, I guess my son would be like in 8th grade now, and he's very similar. Yeah, well, I mean, there was poker, but the problem that I have with everything is that if you look at math books, they're all written in math notation. They're all written in a certain, they're written for mathematicians. They're not written for the common person that actually wants to get something done. And I said, if you put stuff in D&D and said, all right, if you have 4d6 and you drop the highest, what is your average? If you do this, what is your average? And I wish they would do more of those problems that are worked out. Or, God forbid, it's like, I know Max likes to do the 5d6 and drop the highest and the lowest. Okay, so what is your curve, percentage-wise of when you get certain stats? I would have loved to see more of that. I mean, I can force it, but it's been a while. But yeah, I would rather see that and stop trying to put in all these different pictures. To me, math books could be much better written if they would actually make them interesting instead of trying to get stuck into producing, how would I say, master's degrees in mathematics.
Right. Speaking of math books, believe it or not, when I was like 18 years old, I modeled. I was trying to get into modeling because I, was still good looking and life hasn't kicked me in the nuts at that juncture. Well, it did, but not as bad. And I was trying to go into modeling because this guy said, you have an interesting look. And I'm like, sure, modeling, hot chicks, let's do this. Well, I'm in a math book somewhere out there.
Oh, nice.
That I've never, they showed me the picture. They gave me like $200 for the photo, taking like 4 photos. And that was like, I guess, what, $50 a photo? Yeah. See, and I'm like, woohoo. And that was the end of my modeling career. I'm in a math book somewhere out there.
You should find it.
And Cuddles, did you use that money on alcohol?
I was 18. What do you think?
Just curious.
The answer is yes. And cigars.
So I'm curious what Cole means with my upslumming work. Like, what is upslumming work?
Slumming with me. I'm not as renownedly respectful as one basic expert.
Yeah. I mean, he's not that respectable, rather.
I'm some schmuck that lives in the middle of a cornfield that decided to do this for shits and giggles. You are the poor bastards that decided to watch me.
Yeah.
Which I'm highly appreciative, though, by the way, as my viewer count.
I'm just streaming for shits and giggles too, but for some reason, people keep inviting me on their streams, and I don't know why, but I'll take it. Like, fair enough.
we need that international viewpoint perspective.
Yeah. I just tried to take a sip of beer and my beer splashed up in my face. Oh.
So I am this month I'm going to see the did you look like those did you look at those D&D character school things? I no, not yet. Because I think as much as I think it's a great idea, I don't want anything to do with it.
Well, here's the problem that I have with a lot of it is, I think that they're fine
Yeah,
if they're written at the higher level. The problem I've been noticing is that, growing up as a kid, and well, D&D not so much, but when you start getting into Vampire the Masquerade, which was aimed at a more mature gamer, only for the fact that I'm saying that you have the moral implications a lot more.
right.
But I think that I like that morality aspect, that gray zone, the damned if you do, damned if you don't scenarios. I love those things. I think that it can be used, and actually my friend, his I don't think they're married yet. Anyway, his girlfriend, she works as a therapist and thought that it would work well for some of these kids. I said, well, to get some of the kids out, the problem that I'm going to have is if it's used as neutral, so people can play in fantasy or some other stuff, that's fine. It's if they're trying to push a certain message that I'm like, stop. No, I don't want that in there.
That's my issue. I don't want. I might not very much agree with some of the things that have been said with our counterpoints parts, Max, Victor, and two of them. I get where they're coming from. I don't know.
You're more easygoing, which is fine.
No, yeah,
I don't fault you that. Like, I'm not mad if you don't agree with me. Like, if whatever. Like, everyone's their own person. Just don't go after me. Like, it's fine.
No,
yeah.
And the problem that I have too often, same thing with sports. Stop making it political. I go to these as an escapism, or what does it Shadow say? Whoever it is, I go there for a vacation. It's to get me away from the rest of the world. Stop bringing the real world into my damn game. Yes, you can use elements. I'm not saying you can't use elements, but don't browbeat people and then complain and then everything else. It's just like, well, you have to have this type of person playing your game. I'm going to play with whoever's available. How about that? That's like, that's what gets into me. And, we don't have to agree on everything, but that's why, and that's why I feel that these people don't actually play in many ways. It's one thing getting hard to get players. It's another to say, well, we're just going to exclude this. Yeah, exactly. And I feel sad about that. People have a hard, stressful day. They want to get away from it. And the weird thing was, when I was in the Navy, my grades actually were much better when I was going through A school, when I was playing D&D, because it allowed me a mental escape. I didn't have to worry about the rest of the world. Now, to be fair, is of course the world that I imagined myself in was in a much more bleak and terrible one. But that's okay. Well, it was Dark Sun, so
I looked at Dark Sun artwork, and every time I look at it, I'm like, am I reading a heavy metal magazine?
That's Brahm. I like his artwork for that, but I think there's a lot of it. But you know what? I'm okay with that. The whole thing was to look cool. It reminds me of Mad Max,
I have nothing wrong with it. It was just like, I've seen this artwork somewhere else.
But that's what I wanted from it. I'd come from a Monty Hall campaign, which it was my fault as the DM, and I went exactly the opposite way. And there was Dark Sun. Oh, you don't have steel weapons? Like, steel weapons were the equivalent of magic weapons in Dark Sun. Wow. So you're using flint and stuff, and it's been years, but like if you rolled a certain thing, your weapon broke. I went, oh, and because it was more dangerous, you didn't get the high armor classes. You got like leather leather was like your really good armor, and then when you start getting metal, that was like, oh, especially when you look at leather's what, an AC 8 or 7 or 8. I mean, if you look at it, is to wear full plate was the equivalent of a +5 leather. I mean, that's
pretty damn. Yeah, no, I mean, I get what you're saying. I don't know. It's just 3.5 basically was at the end. It was at the end of 3.5, and everybody's switching over to 4th edition, which I thought was nonsense. And Pathfinder didn't exactly hit the ground yet. So I'm like looking at other systems out there that I might want to try. And one of my buddies had a Dark Sun one. He's like, and I'm sort of looking at it, and I'm like, that's a little bit more gritty than I want to go with.
Well, I like the fact of the idea of the preservers and the defilers, because, I'm going to cast a spell. Yeah, but you just destroyed the crops, and they're going to, the village is going to come up and beat the hell out of you. And when your armor class is only, not that the mages had the best armor class, but you're not negative. Oh, hell yeah, they're going to, I mean, they can beat the hell out of you.
Right.
See, if it was up to me, all I would disagree with you, Conall, is like about like what system is better, if Dark Sun is good or not, like all that stuff. But like the current D&D players, they tend to force the issue when it comes to politics, and then sometimes you just have to respond to it. This is the way it is.
That is fair. I think I looked out with my Monday game, my fun game, because most of them basically think like I do, which that's normally how you have friends. There's some kind of mind link where we don't always agree on everything, but we agree on most things, 60% of most of the issues. Every once in a while, we'll argue what flavor cheetah Trump is, but that's really about it.
Yeah.
And does President Biden have a binky when he goes to bed, or is it a full-on teddy bear? Obama. But small jokes like that.
Well,
both sides. I'm baking on both sides, everybody.
No. But I mean, the majority of it is when people look at it, let's stop treating Twitter like it's the real world. It's 2% of people at most. Of those, there's even a smaller subset that get offended by everything. And the reality of it is even when I've played with some of these people that are kind of woke, they're nothing like these people on Twitter. And all I can think is the people there are just insufferable human beings who are trying to get, what's it called? They're just insufferable human beings that no one wants to play with. And they're the ones that will literally piss in your cereal.
They want clout and accolades.
Yeah, it's like, look, you're not making yourself look bad. And to be fair, it's like the orcs equal black people. That was one article written for someone that was trying to do clickbait, and somehow Wizards of the Coast just fell for it. The best thing to do with these people is go, it's a fantasy game with a pig-headed animal or a pig-headed race. Ignore it.
It got astroturfed by Twitter because, like you said, it was like one dude and one article. Like I remember when it first happened, it was like 2-3 years ago when it first came up. It was like one weird pink-haired guy, and everyone made fun of them. It's like, no, you're fucking dumb for like saying that. But then that just became like the popular thing to say among like progressive D&D circles for some reason. And now it's just fact. Like, no, orcs were always meant to be black people. Gary Gygax, like, purposely made them like black people because he was a horrible racist. Like, they just completely changed history. And that's what we're fighting against. Like, these people just, like, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but just like, yeah, I saw a video today of this chick called Connie Chang. She works for Wizards of the Coast now. She was in that one D&D video where she was saying like, oh, you know, finally I see somebody that looks like me in the game.
Oh,
that
yeah.
Asian girl. Yeah. She was talking
what?
about like colonialism and D&D and stuff. And she was like saying like outright lies, like, oh, you know, orcs, they get like a -2 to intelligence. That hasn't been a thing like in years. Like that hasn't been a thing since 3.5.
Here's the thing. What is wrong with orcs when they're not human? You know, the problem that I have with it is stop equating, and this is why I get mad about it, stop equating the colloquial term. Well, it's what people use as race, because race meant two different things. There was a human race, which is the way that Gary Gygax did it, and then you
Yeah.
had the Neanderthal race, which are different species, which is a perfectly good term if you look in the dictionary, versus what you're looking at the way that they want to do it is they're trying to do it in modern days. And the other thing that gets me about it is they're orcs. They're not intended. If you ever go read the Unearthed Arcana and stuff, go read that. Go read the stuff that comes out of Tolkien. It is they are created by almost literally different gods as a perversion of human beings. And if you think that any human beings are perversions of from some other god or something like that, then the problem lies with you, not with the designers who didn't look at it in any way that way. That's what gets me so mad about it. It's like, you know, halflings are halflings, elves are elves. They're supposed to be different, and that was what's going to make them different. If you want to make everyone just the same, which is what they've basically done, is, and I think they're trying to move a little bit back from 1D&D. Who cares if they had negative? It's like them complain about kobolds had a -2 strength. We can't give negatives. I honestly liked the original old versions where they would give them pluses and minuses.
Yeah.
Because guess what? If you wanted to do a halfling and you got a minus in strength, you knew that you were not going to be as strong as the human fighter. That's the whole point of it.
But that's bioessentialism. It's like, yeah, so what? Bioessentialism isn't bad. That's just nature. A cat probably would have different stats than a dog. Sorry, that's just how the things work.
And what's wrong with that? I don't understand where they went over it. The problem that I really have is they're afraid to use the word negative. Oh, it represents a bad connotation. I went, so what? You got a negative stat. It was like when a dwarf got -1 charisma, +1 constitution. It kind of balanced out. Not always.
Right.
But, you know,
well, the funny thing is that these people, they give like fictional races more of a benefit of the doubt than actual real people. They will defend orcs, like fictional orcs. They're like, oh, not all orcs are evil, and you're like, you know, you're evil for like wanting to like, you know, kill them. But at the same time, they'll talk about like, you know, people that play like OSR games or that vote the wrong way. They'll talk about them like they're like, you know, evil troglodytes. So
they should die. They shouldn't exist. Blah blah blah. And I went, well, you know, that never led anywhere good in the 20th century when you start talking about people like that.
Right.
I don't. You know, I hate saying it. I have walked the killing fields in Cambodia.
Yeah.
I have been to Dachau over in Germany. You know, Victor. You know, we had some Dutch friends in the 70s, and they talked about their parents having to eat tulip bulbs because they were starving under the Nazis.
My grandparents had to do that. So
yeah. I mean, you hear this, and this is exactly, but they don't want to talk about that. And then you're like, look, you know, we can complain about colonialism, but the same thing that, oh, you know, they did this. I said, do you it's like anyone that talks about the Aztecs. Do you understand that the Aztecs and the Incas, while they all talked about the Spaniards, and the Spaniards didn't write it down, that's fine. But if you actually look at the history, is they were joined by like 20,000 natives because they hated the Incans and the Aztecs more than any other group. And the Aztecs are, you know, like I've heard snippets of this. The Aztecs, when they saw the Spaniards, literally came over with young children to flavor the foods they had with their blood.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and if you're Spaniards, you're coming over and someone is ritually slaughtering children so they can feed them to you, you will think these are the most demonic human beings in the world. And, you know, and yes, there was cannibalism by Aztecs, and yet these people will defend like, oh, they were poor and innocent. They're like, no, there's a reason that 20,000 natives rose up against the Aztecs because they knew how bad the Aztecs were against them.
Yeah, all these other city-states and tribes, they joined the Spaniards to drive out the Aztecs. So yeah.
You know, no, I'm not saying, you know, yeah, were there bad aspects to that? It's just like all this complaint about slavery. Well, you know what? You don't have to own slaves. And the last I checked, especially if anyone's reading Conan and stuff, was that makes a really good story as you release the slaves. That gives you a motivation. You know, the whole thing with Ben-Hur. Anyone remember that when he's on the ship? He was a slave. You know, the same thing with Spartacus. these things resonate. To leave them out is leaving out huge sections of story that can make your characters heroic.
Yeah.
You know, the point of heroism is to be a cut above doing the noble and heroic thing, and instead what they want to do is they're removing any of that. So all of a sudden you basically become what I want to say. It's fun time cartoons, you know, where no one can die. It's,
Yeah.
no, I got tired as a kid. I don't know. Have you ever watched Fire and Ice?
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 which was an error on my grandparents' parenting decisions. But yes, I've seen it.
I mean, you know, I hate saying it. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. It's like people died. Anyone that played Robotech, to have main characters die was a huge impact. And what you know, and even when you want to go something a little bit less gory, Gargoyles, the cartoon, the first 2 seasons, we won't count the third. Those are excellent storytelling. They have a lot of different things in there.
Don't know if it was aired here in America, but it was definitely aired over there, where the fat gargoyle accidentally shoots the female cop with her gun.
Yeah, that was done over here.
All right, I wasn't, you know, American censors are a little bit different than European censorship, so I always kind of wonder. But yeah, no, Gargoyles was a great one.
Well, see, what I love is they had great characters. When you look at Demona and who was the other Macbeth.
Oh yeah,
You know, and I liked Macbeth because Macbeth can be both the bad guy and the good guy depending on what's there. I'm like, there is an excellent and Xanatos as far as villains. He's an excellent villain. He's the villain you hate to love. You know, that's or you love to hate. You know, you're just like, oh.
So is Game of Thrones wokeist because it showed problems of releasing slaves?
Well, here's the worst part: is not only did they release slaves, but then they put them back into slavery.
I
if
mean,
anyone remember watching those.
I don't know if I would consider Game of Thrones woke. I mean, at least my definition woke.
No. He says racist. If you actually put it back
up.
Oasis.
Oasis.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. Of course it is, because you had the men of the North, which were different than the, you know, each of the different kingdoms. That's what they cared about.
Right.
You know, and that's you
the,
know
the world is definitely racist because it's medieval times. That's
sure
how people.
It was written in the same time period as it was written. You know, George R. R. Martin wrote it. His variation of was it
the War of the Roses?
Yeah.
Roses? Yeah.
He in an interview he was originally saying he didn't even want to add dragons.
Yeah.
It made having dragons and it made no damn sense to him until later on. I mean, slaves is a concept that's been going around since forever and a day. It depends on what country you live in, was how you were treated as a slave. In Celtic mythology, in Celtic era, they took slaves. If you lost in the war, the prisoners of war would be turned into slaves, but they had an opportunity of getting their freedom back, their honor back. It wasn't anything like what they did here.
Well,
slavery is probably as old as humanity. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Slavery's done that. You know, there's a lot of different aspects, and boy, when you start digging down to it, it's a lot more complex than people give it credit for.
I mean, it was an ugly bit of business. I'm not going to say anything great about it.
Of course, like nobody should be like, yay, slavery. But to pretend that the American version of slavery was like singularly evil and was like more evil than any other slavery that was ever done in the history of mankind is fucking dumb. Because even at the same time, the Arabs were taking slaves and they would like castrate them. Like they would do a horrible shit to their slaves. How is that worse or better than what the Americans did?
Well, it was 2/3 of all. Well, and it's not just Americans. You have to look at the entire Western part of it.
Yeah.
And if you really go back and look at what the English did to the Irish for slaves.
Yeah.
They literally took portraits of them.
Yeah, trust me, I know. I mean, I wasn't there, but I got that education.
Wait. You have legitimacy, but I miss my slaves. Well, you know what? That's why you have a wife.
Oh, actually, I think it's more the other way around.
Yeah, well, that's true.
We are max slaves when we come onto a stream.
Well, what's interesting is people forget, if you look at indentured servants versus slaves, and many times the indentured servants were treated worse because they only kept them for a certain time period, so they had to work them to almost to death. Whereas a slave is you were responsible for them their entire life. So it's like I heard when they talk about the Irish, the free Irish, they would work those guys to death because you didn't pay for them. If you pay what's the equivalent of 5 years of someone's salary or something, if you mistreat them, you're not going to get your money back. And so, it's people. It's very complex, and that's the thing that I want to go through. And I said, you can do nuanced, you can do however else you want to go with it, but I can't name a single society I can think of, large society, that didn't have slaves. And in many cases, your choice was either you became a slave or they killed you. And where did the Comanches fit in there? The Comanches would kill anyone if they were too young. They're killing them if they're too old. So generally, if you were about, I think, was it 8 to 14 or something like that, they would take you into their tribe. But if you were younger than that, so if you were a baby, they would just kill you. I mean, it's like, look, and here's the sad thing. It's not, they want to attribute morality to race. And the reality of it is we're human beings, which means that any human being is capable of being both saintly and demonic. And to ignore that aspect is to really reduce a lot of the things that go on.
The problem is they also want to, this started because of a discussion of Black Sun. They want to ban fictional depictions of slavery because slavery is bad and blah, blah, blah. That doesn't make sense to me. So they're basically saying if you read Treasure Island, you're condoning piracy, and maybe it'll inspire you to become a pirate. That's basically the argument if you boil it down.
Oh, I know. Well, these people don't live in the real world. They have empty lives. I hate saying
you
it.
can damn near make an argument out of anything. Trust me.
Well, here's the problem. It's one thing when you're around with your friends and you're bullshitting around a table. And so, well, what about this? I had a friend that one time decided, which was hilarious. He had the argument between self-defense and what happens if you injure someone that's attacking you for self-defense.
Depends on what state you're in.
His premise was, if laws were only based on actions and not intent, so it was only the outcome and not the intent. And so we were just, anyway, we had a discussion for an hour and a half. It was hilarious listening to it, but it ended with that you were mugged during the fight. You were mugged with a guy with a knife. During the fight, you're able to disarm him, but he cuts his pinky. And because he cuts his pinky, he won't be able to do his job for making G-strings. And his whole purpose was, don't you realize how important the pinky is in the making of G-strings? That's how he ended the whole discussion. But this was it. But it was an hour and a half of this going back and forth. I said, but that's fine if you can do it tongue in cheek and it's humorous. But these people, well, and then, like I said, it's Twitter. They're fairly empty people. I mean, when you look at it, they're there's not a sense of, let me think about this. Let me look at it. It's just when you start hearing about, which people forget about, and actually, to be fair, if you, they did mention this in Game of Thrones, was if you look at Jefferson kept on bringing up trying to outlaw slavery, even though he had slaves, and they kept voting it down. So and the law did not allow him to sell off to get rid of slaves. He could not free them. And that was the problem that you had with a lot of it was, there's these, sometimes you're trapped by laws, and, as slaves were deemed property, you could not just let them go because you had to pay back, because you had a mortgage or a loan. You had to pay back that loan before you could. And the other one was, by my understanding, Washington said it's really unfair to suddenly, it's just like your kid. You haven't taught him anything on how to deal with the real world, and say, you know what, good luck, you're free, you're out of the house, bye. And that's how they wanted to make sure that they were taken care of. So so there's a lot of moral aspects to this too. Of, it's really easy to say, well, we just free you. It reminds me of, what was it that one time? It's the same thing that happens whenever people have tigers and things.
Oh yeah.
Let's just free them from the cages. Well, the problem that you have is that the tiger can't survive if you put it out there, which makes them both a danger to human beings and themselves. If you're born in captivity and no one's ever taught you how to survive on your own, you're going to die. And that's the problem that a lot of these come into is, yes, it's immoral to keep tigers and things like that for, in these cages where they can't learn the basic skills to survive. But now that they're there, you can't release them either, because because they're both dangerous to other people and to themselves. So it's I'm not saying it's the same equivalent for human beings, because you can
Right. If you keep somebody in ignorance though their entire life, I'm not going to even throw religion in this. Let's say you have a very controlling father figure or mother figure. Carrie, for example, Stephen King's Carrie. Am I thinking of the movie? Yeah. Or right book. Where you have an overbearing parent that keeps you in ignorant. Don't believe what they tell you at school. Don't believe what your friends tell you. It's only my way that, I'll keep you safe. There's a word for that. That's called Stockholm Syndrome.
Well, the other part is, and I know I've seen a lot of people have this. If your parents aren't teaching you how to cook, your parents aren't teaching you how to clean, basic job skills like show up on time, dress neatly, how to bathe, you're going to be at a major disadvantage. Saying basic things like yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. I mean, basic courtesy aspects. You're not benefiting your kids by allowing them to run free and say, well, they'll learn it on their own. You're actually setting them back. I agree. That's the problem that you have with a lot of them, is they think that they'll just learn. You're sending the kid back 10 or you're sending the kid at least 5 years back where they have to learn this, and the world's going to kick them in the teeth a bunch. You're like, no, that's why we teach kids how to read and write and do math. That's why you want to teach the kid how to balance a checkbook, or how to do a budget, or how to the basic skills of what were they freaking out when COVID came out? All these news reporter writers, oh my God, I'm going to starve. All the restaurants are closed. And all I can think is, you didn't know how to cook?
Well, what pisses me off is, a lot of things piss me off, to be fair. But what pisses me off was when I was in high school, they didn't offer home ec.
Okay.
And I remember listening to my mom talk about home ec. When you get into high school, take home ec. It'll teach you how to cook. So, balance your checkbook. Well, technology-wise, we don't really use checkbooks, but it's still a good tool to use. To have, to keep your bank account, in the way you want it to be. And really quick, Stockholm was the wrong term. Yeah, you guys are right. But it is abuse. Either way you run it is abuse. But I wish that they would bring it back. More and more people out there don't know how to even roast a simple chicken. Roast a simple chicken, which is not hard.
I'm going to say this much, and we've had some arguments with this, but my friend and I used to talk about this, about cooking a chicken to 165. Yes, that's what the USDA recommends, but I always find that my chicken's kind of rubbery at that temperature.
At what degrees?
165 degrees Fahrenheit.
For how long?
Well, that's the question, but that's the problem that I have is I found that I can generally cook it to about 150 to 155 to get it right about where I want it to.
Right.
And this is the problem I also have, because I like to really do my research and things. If you actually read what it says, it's for so many seconds. Oh, it's at this temperature at this many seconds, this temperature at this many seconds, this temperature at this many seconds. But it's like that's been removed, so all people hear is 165. They're like, you have to cook your chicken to 165. I said, well, hold on. So if you look at the chart, it says that that's instantaneous kill. Well, there's a temperature going up and there's a temperature going down. It's killing the germs as it's going up, and it's killing the germs as it's going down.
I cook a chicken at 350 for anywhere.
The internal temperature of the chicken is what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to think just the way 345. No, 350 for 45 minutes. Yeah. Well, it depends on how big the bird is, though, too.
Yeah, well, and you want clear juices, and a lot of times you have to. Well, it's just like for a steak, is you want to, it should have a certain feel when you push down on it, and
it's the yep. I understand what you're saying. We're boring Victor because I'm sure he doesn't. You cook, Victor?
Yeah, I cook for myself, but I'm just because I have to mostly. I mean, I do enjoy cooking like certain stuff. I made some homemade chili the other day, which was fun. But
what is Norway? I mean, what is Netherlands chili? I mean, is it basically American chili? I hate to put it that way.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It's like, do you guys do something different? I'm not trying to turn this into the cooking channel, but I'm just curious.
I had to clear out my freezer, so I had like a lot of hamburgers that I just chopped up, threw in there. Gotcha. I threw in some bacon, I threw in some steak, like stuff like that. Added like a bunch of beans, onion, veggies, various veggies. And then for the tomato sauce, I had like a can of like, little tomato blocks, like little cubes. Yeah. And then I usually just add like a big bottle of spaghetti sauce because, whatever. And then I just put that in the slow cooker for like 6 to 8 hours, and it's delicious.
Oh, that's the other part. Is like, these people act like it's so hard to cook. I'm like,
no.
And to be fair, it's like I like my duck. What is it? Medium rare.
Duck.
How you supposed to cook duck?
Yeah. I still prefer my duck well, not burnt, but done.
I do not. I found a recipe which was really super easy for duck. Which now duck's a little bit more expensive, but all I do is score the skin. I throw it onto the pan. I put some garlic powder and some salt, and then a bunch of parsley on that side. And I basically render the fat and then flip it over and get it browned on the top for like a minute. Yeah. Back over again, and then I throw it into the oven for a few minutes until it's medium rare, and then pull it out. And it's great that way.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just duck. Beef and fish are really the only two things I'll eat raw, if not rare. I'm funny when it comes to fowl and other things.
It's fair to say that. I'm not saying that you don't.
It's like lamb. Lamb is supposed to be served basically nice and freaking bloody. And,
I used to make lamb, but I'd make leg lamb. But boy, lamb went up in price.
Lamb here is fairly reasonable. Granted, I can go to Costco and spend, if I had the money, $2,000 and get a whole lamb and do a spit roast.
I'm trying to work with one of my coworkers on getting a share of a cow. And
that's the way to go. That is really the way to go.
And he has, a lot of them have cattle, and they're like, okay, I need to get rid of 2 or 3 of them this year. I'm like, okay. And they're like, who here wants half a share or something? Like, yeah, I'll take it. I just have to find freezer, but I go through beef pretty quickly, relatively speaking. I probably go through about 1 pound or 2 of beef a day.
That's a lot of beef.
So
to each their own, but that's a lot of beef. I cook for a living, so I'm like, damn.
To be fair on this, I eat mostly meat only. I've really
okay, gotcha. Hey Max, the link is in the chat if you want to jump in. I know you'll probably say no, you're busy, but I figure I should, be somewhat nice. You let this poor schmuck on your show. Oh yeah, no, I went to, a little back history really quick. I went to school for culinary arts and I failed out of it because I had absolutely no interest in running my own damn restaurant. Never want my own restaurant. Don't want it. Don't need it. just don't want to do it. So I never did the business. Well, if you don't do the business, we're going to fail out. I'm like, that's fine. I learned how to do the butchery. I learned how to do the cuts and everything else. I am fine. I will make my own way. But, so yeah, I cook for a living, and it's fun. I have a lot of great time with it. And this is not a blast towards Shadow, but Shadow has multiple times said, if it takes longer than my microwave to cook it, I don't want to eat it. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
You know what though? I love the sous vide. I throw it into the water bath, and when I'm ready to actually do it, I will do. The biggest thing is prepping it for the sous vide, but I get, what is it, a pound and a half of ribeye. It's like 2 inches thick, and I just
All right.
I just throw it in there, and now no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll also get the ground beef, like 73.27.
Oh yeah.
So I did that. So my son has been making pretty good hamburgers, and we've been, whatever the fat is left over. I'm like, you know what? I'll take that tallow and I'll throw it in there when I'm ready to cook up my steak on the pan, and that'll be pretty good.
The clients I'm working for went through like almost so many ducks. Because anyway, I ended up cooking a lot of ducks from this past couple months, where I rendered down duck fat into lard.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's easy too. Oh yeah, it's really good.
And it makes everything so much better. Ooh, a cheeseburger cooked in duck lard.
Well, to me,
so fancy, so fancy.
Those little potato pancakes, to make those in the duck lard?
That
would work out well. The other one is, not that everyone likes it, and I don't like turkey unless it's made with turducken. I love turducken with a good crawfish stuffing inside of it.
I mean, I made a turducken from scratch once just to see if I could do it.
Sure.
And I made it, and I looked at it, and I took it to a homeless shelter for Thanksgiving and gave it away. I'm not going to eat this. But that's a problem with cooking with me, is if I spend like 2 days, 3 days cooking a meal, by the time it's done and ready to serve, I don't even want to fucking look at it.
I feel the same way. If it takes me a long period of time, I'm like, I'm not hungry for it. Like I used to make desserts. And people are like, aren't you going to eat it? I'm like, no, I'm tired of it. I don't want to see it anymore. I'm going to grab something else. But some things are easy. Like, they have the pre-made fajitas around here that are made with beef fat. That's how I can look at it. I always look over like, does it have real fat or does it have the oil in it?
I used to joke that the secret recipe for hamburgers at McDonald's, the secret sauce was just beef, real beef grease. That's how
they used to make their fries in it until people screamed about it because I thought the fries were vegetarian and didn't realize they were cooked in beef tallow.
Speaking of vegetarians, I went to grocery shopping earlier today, and I passed this thing with mashed potatoes that said, was it plant-based mashed potatoes? I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I had to pick it up. I had to pick it up and like, what the fuck am I looking at? And oh no, that was okay. That was Max that said that. If it takks longer than to cook, I don't want it. Yeah, I just life is miserable enough. Your food shouldn't be.
Well, I mean, he's married to a Japanese woman, so they probably eat a lot of raw stuff, just live squid, and just like a fish that's still flopping around, so just bite right into it. Creeps.
It's funny because my family was Greek, a lot. Well, half of them.
I
enjoy eating. I love octopus and I love squid.
Yeah,
octopus probably. I like octopus better than squid. We went to some place in San Antonio recently, and it was cold, but it was it was a Mexican restaurant where they would serve the food a lot of times. Well, no, what I mean is it's intended to be served cold.
Like Vichyssoise?
Like for example, it's like they put the shrimp and then it basically gets cooked in like lime juice and things like that.
It's a Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Fuck. Yeah. I know
Yeah,
what you're
yeah.
talking.
It's intended to be cold, but I'll be honest. I like hot food. I don't like my food cold. I want my soups hot. The only thing I want cold is generally something, or the foods I shouldn't be having, like Girl Scout cookies. Yeah, come on, Thin Mints in the freezer. Those are some of the best.
I mean, that's almost religious. Geez, what was it? Dairy Queen. There for a while. They bring it back every so often. We'll have Girl Scout mint think cookie milkshakes.
Or the blizzards. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I got a question for you, Victor.
Yeah.
What is the basic produce? I mean, not produce. What I mean is I'm trying to figure out right to put this.
What are your staple foods? I think is what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
beef, cow, chicken, duck, reindeer. What are you most likely to find at the store?
Lots of beef and pork, probably chicken too. Yeah. Um, like like our traditional food, so a lot of like peasant stuff. So we have something called boerenkool and worst, which basically is mashed potatoes with kale mixed in, and then like smoked sausage,
Ooh,
and like bacon and gravy and stuff like that. Oftentimes, we have like this really thick, chunky like pea soup that is like the peas are like pretty much like whole in it, and there's like all sorts of veggies, and we also throw smoked sausage and bacon and in there, like stuff like that, like a lot of like stuff like that. Like, because we for the longest time we were like a rural like farmer country, and you needed like hearty stuff, like to get through the day, especially since it gets pretty cold here during the winter and stuff like that. So
no, that's fair.
yeah.
I'll say this much. I did not like Northern European fare. So like Germany, everyone's like, "Oh, German food's so great,"
Mind it?
and I went. My family was Greek, and I went.
Yeah.
Can we use some spices somewhere in here? Could you do something? Now, to be fair, my friend was joking because he said, we found some German food you like. And it was the Hochkassen. Because, back then, this is the thing that people forget about is the spices were rare. So they used to give like a cup of peppercorns, which we take for granted nowadays. But oh my God, pepper was that was, if you presented the king a cup of peppercorns, that was a huge deal. And nowadays, I'm like, I think I have a cup of peppercorns right now in my
fresh peppercorn.
Yeah, whole peppercorns. Yeah.
At my place of employment, I buy it by pounds.
Exactly, but think of but that's the whole point is we take things for granted nowadays for the spices like cinnamon. We think nothing of cinnamon.
Although fucking saffron is still expensive as fuck.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
That was the one thing I wish I had bought when I was in Afghanistan is they had little things of saffron. Yeah. And I want to do it. And then when I was in Iraq, because I knew that a lot of times it was coming from Iran, as I wanted to buy saffron, and they're like, I said, look, I'll pay you. I was telling the guys, I'll give you like $300 or $400. Just give me some saffron. And they're like, no. Everyone turned me down, oddly enough, because they said they can't guarantee it. What was interesting, though, was one of the guys says, hey, man, we have these little mushrooms, the little white mushrooms that are really good. And we finally figured out that they were talking about white truffles.
Oh, shit. Shit.
And they were talking about trying to make the dish. I didn't get the dish when I was there, but
God, white truffles, holy fuck.
Well, yeah, and that was. I mean, I once bought a black truffle, and it was 1/10 of a pound, and that was like $20 at the time.
My client every so often will ask for truffle macaroni and cheese, but not like fresh, made correctly, not like box. And I just look at this bowl when I'm done with it. I'm like, this is more expensive than my car payments.
I took that, it was 1/10 of a pound of truffle. I shaved it really thin. I mixed it with a bunch of butter. And I made truffle butter, and then I cooked up some shrimp, and we're talking like the big Gulf shrimp that are like, oh, what is it, about 12 to a pound?
Yeah.
And you butterfly those, and then I'd mix it over with the truffle butter, and that was really good.
I didn't get in trouble for this thing, Scott, thank God, but I accidentally mixed the pot butter up for a different type of butter, and they put it on their cornbread. They liked it. They were all stoned afterwards.
Oh.
My cornbread is we'll get off the subject if you're getting bored with it, Victor.
It's fine. Just it's your stream. Talk whatever you want.
It's the next one is modern D&D cooking. He's gonna have like truffle.
I got the D&D cookbook for shits and giggles.
Yeah. Let's do a cooking contest campaign. It'll be fun.
It's only a little bit more manly than the coffee. Who makes the best coffee?
Well, no. If we're gonna talk about that, what's gonna happen is you're an adventuring party that has to go get exotic foods for the king. He's like, I would like black dragon. You're like, oh God, you're gonna kill me again.
Yeah.
The spell preserve is like it's like the number one. Like, no, you gotta save the preserve spell. You can't heal him.
My Monday campaigns, we're doing like the very first. We're doing back to D&D for what is it? Dragon Heist, and I don't have to run it, thank God, or draw out the damn maps because fuck that. I don't know if either one of you guys seen the maps for Dragon Heist.
No, but I know that Adventure is notoriously like shit.
No, I know nothing about it.
Storyline, but I know the maps. Each square, if you're drawing it out, most squares are supposed to be 5 by 5, right? Mm-hmm. These squares are 10 by 10.
Yeah. Okay, so the old D&D.
Right, and I'm like, I don't have enough grid paper. That was my normal argument is like, I don't have enough grid paper to do that nonsense. But anyways, one of the characters we had to fight these. What were the Raven? They're called the Raven. The only thing they used to be able to do was mimic people. Now,
the
doppelgangers.
No. Tengu? No.
Kangaroo. Yeah, something like
Kenku.
that.
Yeah.
Kenku.
The Tengu. The ones that look like.
Yeah,
clothes.
the Kenku. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to deal something. We're doing something, and I don't know if either one of you guys know a lot about Waterdeep, but there's a lot of laws, and if you caught breaking any of them, you're in big trouble for the game setting, right? And it's like we're already breaking and entering in this factory that we have no business with, and one of the guys like, well, they start attacking us, and the guy's like, well, we can claim self-defense. I'm like, not when you break into the building, you can't.
Yeah.
And they're like, what are we going to do with these bodies? I'm like, well, they are birds. They're like, nope, we're not eating them. I'm like, but why not?
well, wait. It gives a whole new meaning to eating crow.
Right. Yeah. And my friend's like, you can't eat crow because they're scavenge birds. I'm like, I know this, but I'm not saying my character does. And so he's like, that's fucking wrong. I'm like, And somebody's like, you can't do that. They're sentient beings. I'm like, so are pigs, but you have no problem eating them.
Oh, I need to break open and look at my Historia book. I don't know if you've heard about that. It's basically a gritty 5e furry book. I don't mean it in a bad way.
We're bringing up furries. Where's Max?
It's. Well, I like the artwork, but it's the kind of thing that you come over and everyone, like, you can play a swan or a pig or a dog or a panther. It gives you like a bunch of different. Basically, it's mostly mammals and birds. They don't have any other animals in there, but I like the artwork on it. But of course they're like, it's a grittier version, and like, well, I kind of like this artwork. So it's almost the. Where the Pugmire's kind of sweet and lovable. This one is much more. This one's not. So,
I'm planning a furry game too, so I have nothing against it. It's good money maker, really.
Okay,
Furries,
so
have a lot of money to spend.
well, here's the question: is so which system are you gonna? So which books are you gonna do? Or are you creating your own?
I'm either gonna do 5e or OSR. It depends on how 5e goes around 2024 when 1D&D is like in full swing. I have like no idea what's gonna happen with 5e because I don't want to do 1D&D stuff. I want to stick with the 2014 rules. If there's a market for it, I'll continue with it. If there's not, I'm just gonna go full on OSR and stuff like that.
Well,
but my idea is basically Sin City, but with furries, and I'm gonna call it Wild City.
Well, but here's the thing that gets me about it for the whole thing is that you don't. Everyone now is freaking out because they grew up with 5e. I'm like, every one of us that's had an edition change. It's like, well, I like this version better than that version.
That's
but previous edition changes weren't influenced by the culture war and social justice and stuff like that. This one definitely is. This one is like going full on, like, we're changing this because orcs are black people. Like, and that's why I don't want anything to do with it. I don't have anything against edition changes otherwise. Like, I play 3.5, I play 5e, I play 1e, I play 2e, like whatever the fuck. Like, I don't care.
No. What I meant is that people are going to stick with the edition that they tended to grow up with. Is what I'm trying to say. So,
okay, I get you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's probably going to be a market for it still. Yeah.
There's going to be a huge market for it. It's just like as much as people talk about this, why is we all joke about it. Why is OSE doing so well?
Yeah.
Because it's not that you don't have it, and you have the perfectly good books that you get from drive-thru for years. But why did I buy the OSE stuff? Well, I kind of like their small little hardcover back books. And I didn't buy the thick versions. I bought the little individual ones. And that's because I assume that I'm going to be the only person at the table that buys these books. If I want to run it, I can hand them off to the other players, and they can flip through it and look at them. And I think
old school Essentials is just like way better layout and like clever, like just the explanations are way clever too. So
it's well done. I mean, you do pay for it but I think that they would like it. But the thing is you have to. Like, I'm not a huge fan of 5e, but that said, I've actually been looking over the Pugmire rules and the Marks. I don't know, Conall, have you been looking over them?
When I get a chance to, but I've been really busy of late. Okay. So I'm like,
Well, I mean, if you look over the Pugmire stuff, it is. I think that it reminds me of OSR sensibility with 5e rules.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've read them, Victor, but I like the refinements. Instead of you get a feat every level. You only go up to 10 levels, but some feats are you can either get more spells, you can cast more spells, or you can get different abilities. So you can actually really, it doesn't feel like the one that they have for 5e, where it's every level you get X. And this one, it's you can get a refinement, so you get better, but it's not that linear. Like at third level, everyone gets this. That's not how it works. At third level, you could cast third level spells, or you could do something else that gives like inspiration to all the other players.
Yeah,
I really wish that they had done that. I think that it's, we could talk about Woke and Onyx Path, but honestly, I think that they did a fantastic job with it. I may have a little bit of disagreements, but to me, it's what 5e should have been rather than what they've made it.
Yeah. You can do a lot with 5e if you want to. It's very hackable. It's very modular.
Everybody, I don't know. I found when it comes between 5th edition and some of the earlier editions, even Pathfinder, I found Pathfinder to be more heavy-handed every level than 5e is.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Pathfinder is 3.5, so like it has a lot more like feat bloats because you need this feat to be able to get this feat, and then you need that feat to be able to get this feat, and there's like all feat, stacking and like all that shit.
And I think the problem with it is that there are optimal builds.
Yeah.
You look at it, it's like, well, I'm going to take this for flavor. Yeah, but you just hurt the rest of the party because you didn't optimize
Yeah.
some of it. But that's one thing I do like about Forbidden Lands. I don't like the fact that the spells can kill you. So if you're becoming a spellcaster, you might just kiss your character goodbye with like a couple of rounds. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Forbidden Lands, every if you want to call them talents or whatever, every one of them is useful, even for things you wouldn't think are useful, like cooking. Cooking may mean more to the life of your characters than the fact that you can use your shield. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how important it is. The same thing with fishing, foraging, because it's the exploration survival aspect to it that makes those so important.
That makes
Whereas
sense.
some of them, when you're talking like Palladium, oh, well, we're going to get cooking. And I kind of went, why even put that skill in there except to waste someone's skill? I hate saying it, is if it's not going to have a strong mechanical aspect to it in the game, leave it out and put that as flavor. And that's the problem I have a little bit with 5e, is that they started making it that they wanted to add all these different skills, saying, okay, we're going to have a limited skill set. Anything outside of that is flavor, because it doesn't impact how the players are actually, it doesn't impact the game mechanically.
5e actually already stripped down the skill list compared to like 3.5 and stuff like that.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's a whole lot more reasonable than earlier editions.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about first, I don't know about second, but 3.5 skill tree was fucking huge.
Well, 1 and 2
Pathfinder-
didn't even have skills. Well, 2 might have. I don't know, but
1 did once you got to the Dungeoneer Survival Guide and the Wilderness Survival Guide. But you're right, and those were near the end. So you got the survival guides and the OAR.
But they weren't part of like the core game. So
well, it was they were at the very end, which at the time I thought they were super cool. They did give some more things, but in retrospect, I kind of just wish that they had, if you, instead of giving them skills, just kind of give them an idea. I do think that 5e, if you remove the skills and you just use the optional rules for 5e for proficiency checks, I think that those are actually better in some ways, because then players don't feel like they're really playing the character. Like if I say I'm a pirate, okay, tell me where you would have learned swim. I know swimming. Okay, you're a pirate. I'll give you swimming. But if you said, "Oh, I was a nobleman," I'm like, "No, you don't know swimming, because I generally didn't go swim."
Right.
So those are to me some of the things that come about from it. So I like that.
Strip out the skills. You can strip out. I mean, you don't even need to you don't have to have feats in your campaign, so that gets rid of the feat nonsense that the earlier editions had. I mean, if you really strip 5e down to the bones, it is just another basic it's not basic D&D, but it's just another basic RPG game, and that's kind of how I treat it. This whole woke agenda stuff I just ignore for the most part. The only person that has any agenda at my table is me, and it's normally to screw with my players. I mean, keep my players happy.
But I don't know anyone that I've played with, and even when I include Cypher System, which has some of them, I've played very, very liberal, somewhat woke people. I haven't had these problems that Max brings out. I said that's what gets me about it. Is, okay, tell me at your table where you've had this problem and how often does it occur? And it's almost never. It's just like when everyone complains about the X card. I'm not inherently against the X card, but I'll be honest, I've never seen it used once.
Not every game is meant for every player. I mean, not every DM is meant for every fucking player. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys watching me and Bruce's campaigns that he runs every other Saturday, but I didn't even consider the term rape in box to be one word until I was in his campaign. I'm like, oh. And so, like I said, and I know I don't do rape in my campaigns at the store or at home, because that's just something I don't want in my world.
Exactly. Well, if it does, I want it to happen off screen, and we all allude to it. Very similar to like the 1930s. Not everything has to be in your face, and I think that's part of it. Is because we had this discussion actually, and admittedly they were all older. They were probably in their 40s and stuff, and I said, we'll do stuff off screen. Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna pick up the hooker. Like, all right, fine. You spend the night with her. When you come back, that's fine. But apparently, some of the younger, and this is what I think some of it comes down to, is the ones that are like 16, 17, some of the younger ones under there. No, you
Yeah.
have to describe it. No, I'm not describing it, and you're not gonna get your little porn fantasy from here. Okay. It's a game. We're gonna move on. But that was the only time I've heard where that may have occurred. But that's pretty easy to just stop. No, we're not going to do it. Well, what? If you don't like it, go find another game. Well,
the woke stuff is very easy to ignore at your own table, but the problem is that it's hard to ignore when it comes to the culture as a whole, like the D&D tabletop culture. Yeah,
it's Twitter, which isn't even the real world. That's what gets me.
It's Twitter, Reddit, like all those stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I do run at a game shop. I am paid to run, and granted, it is open to the public in a sense. If you know about it, you know about it. You pay $5 and you get in. But as a whole, it's a private club. You don't pay for membership unless you really want to. And then you only get like discounts on things. You still get pay me $5. So, because I need my money, anyways. Because I'm cheap and a whore. But no, I mean, there's just certain things that people are talking about. You guys have brought up. I'm like, I don't understand how that's even a thing. Because in my campaign, I run for the general public, and the woke stuff is not. I don't run into that. I mean, at all. I have a mixture of tables hell.
Well, it's like Conall says, it's Twitter, and Twitter isn't real, and
Yeah.
But the problem is, Wizards of the Coast doesn't ignore it. Wizards of the Coast thinks it's real. How else did somebody like that Connie Chang person, who has admittedly, she has 5 years experience, maybe playing tabletop RPGs. She's woke as hell. She thinks that D&D is like a colonialist, white supremacist fantasy, all this fucking horseshit, and she's pretty high up in Wizards of the Coast. She has direct influence on the direction of D&D in the future. So as much as I want to ignore it, they're not. So they're affecting the game that I love. So yeah, I'm gonna have to respond to it at some point.
I get that. I just I don't know. I don't know.
I get your point, but yeah. I'm just trying to, give my perspective on it.
Bruce, if you want to jump in. I'll put it back in the link.
Well, I'm going to bring up something that people forget about. If you're talking about Connie Chang and she only has 5 years of experience, there's the problem. You don't have a long-term game design development. You don't have a long-term. You don't understand. I mean, that's like me, being an engineer and saying, well, I'm going to put someone in charge of the major, of $100 million construction project that has 5 years of experience. Some people could do it, but when you're doing an affirmative action, things are going to go a long way, and you're going to have, it's like, well, wait a minute. Do I want the guy that barely knows, or gal? Do I want the person that barely knows anything? And I think that's part of it. Is how much is D&D worth? Probably, I'm not trying to be mean. It probably makes $50 to $100 million a year. I think it's somewhere in there that frame. Why am I entrusting this to someone with 5 years of experience out of college that doesn't understand the players, let alone really understand game design? And I hate saying this, is listening to everyone, Spelljammer, which just seemed to be out there. It seemed lackluster. I haven't heard anyone saying how great it was.
I haven't played it yet, so I can't honestly give my fair opinion on it. I am pissed. It's already slightly pissed me off, but I've also talked to the guy who's thinking about running it, and I basically told him I won't play the monkey race, and they come from a slave background. He's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yep." And he's like, "Okay, whatever." And that was the end of the conversation. And I think running D&D, I think it's like a fever dream. It really is. Because D&D is, I mean, no offense to the players, old school players or new players, D&D is not supposed to be, it's a fun hobby, but it's not meant to be taken serious.
Yeah, it's not a lifestyle, and that's what the
Right. It is, and I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying, but the fact that we got people out there running the show, running WizKid, thinking it is more than what it is 90% of the problem. Then,
so good.
Then you have how should I put this? In bad management. You see this all the time in corporate businesses where they put somebody in a position they don't need to be into, but they're just, they feed within. So,
but to like respond to Omen's point a bit, like I don't have much experience. The basic expert, overall he doesn't have like many years under his belt. But we're just making like our own like indie games and just we're just doing it for fun. And if people want to buy it, like so be it. Like I'm not expecting Wizards of the Coast to like hire me and like tweet me like I'm some expert on like everything and just like give me like this high ranking position. But for some reason, this Connie Chan girl who, like, from what I've seen, pretty much hates the game. She hates she hates the old school way of play. She hates the original types of players. But she's got like a high level position in Wizards of the Coast, and I just don't get it. What's up, Bruce?
Hey, shall we drink?
We shall.
I've got the beer.
Well, here's what I find interesting.
All right,
Is they're talking about all this, but then they're admitting that D&D is pretty much stagnated as far as like player growth. And so, of course, they have to bring out a new edition to revitalize it. But I think part of it is, while everyone talks about, all these, we should gatekeep. Well, I can gatekeep at my table, but I'm still happy to get more players because I think as my players start maturing, they start looking at other game systems, which is the whole reason that I want to play, is because I want those other game systems.
Yeah.
You're the Pokemon of the DMs. You want to catch them all.
Well, that's the problem with me is my budget may say one thing versus what I actually am grabbing for my game.
Yeah, I get that.
The funny thing is, they're worried that it's stagnated, but then like even this new edition, 1D&D, is catering to the people that are like basically cause of the stagnation, I guess.
Well,
and then they don't even like it. They're already still complaining about how it's still racist and all this stuff. So
well, I think
I love it
is that the designers are intellectually bankrupt.
Yeah,
I mean, they aren't bringing out cool new settings, whether you like Dark Sun or not. Dark Sun was a completely different take of D&D. Look at Dragonlance. Dragonlance brought a lot of new stuff. You had Greyhawk, which was your normal stuff. You had a lot of this stuff, but I mean, what do they do? When was the last new setting?
Like I guess
Eberron.
Yeah, Strixhaven maybe, like which is part of the Magic the Gathering setting.
Well, Eberron got well, we'll see. Eberron, I like Eberron, but once again, you need the right DM for that setting, or it's just going to be a shit game. I think I think the races in that campaign are really fun. It being either the Shifter or the Warforge, I think those were really fun, and they didn't get enough limelight because you made a political RPG game. And you didn't push it as that. You just said, hey, it's a new world attached to, 3.5. I'm like, no, this could very much be a House of Cards if ran correctly.
Well, you know what gets me about it is I have nothing against Eberron, but like everything is if they would put the negatives, which they're afraid of doing for like Warforge. If Warforge had some major negatives to them, I wouldn't mind them in the game. But the problem that I have with them is, all right, you just invalidated like 2/3 of my traps, unless they're direct damage dealing. I can't do drowning. I can't do gas. I can't do, some other things like, oh, I'm going to knock you out. You're like, oh, well, thanks. Why, I guess I'll just do another pit trap or I'll do something like that. That's not, as a DM, those are things that get my juices flowing. Those are things that I want to deal with and watch the players think their way out of them.
Well, it's like the combat wheelchair that some girl made up a couple of years ago or last year, and Wizards of the Coast basically like fully embraced it. Your battle,
traps.
Oh, I don't have that one. I bought the other book. Where was that other book? It's called something Traps, which I actually liked.
Traps and treachery.
It was a. I'll find it here in a minute when I bring up Amazon to see what I ordered.
but yeah, like
that game, and you've just got swinging big dick energy at your players. You're just like, hey guys, can you get your way out of this bad sticky situation? And there you go. You know, that's the thing. Traps are meant to basically shut the party down and force them into a position where we got to use our gray matter. Was this
Okay,
what you're talking about?
It was called the Game Master's Book of Traps, Puzzles, and Dungeons, a punching collection of bone trap contraptions, brain-teasing riddles, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I liked what I read from it. It included, like, riddles and a few other things in there. I thought it was really well done. And it wasn't too expensive. I think it was like $30. So,
I'm an asshole when it comes to Warforges. If they take any kind of lightning damage, it shuts them down for a good round.
But see, I wouldn't mind if they would have that. What I want them to do is I want them to have the negative aspects to them. That was part of what I liked about the old OSR. There were trade-offs. And the problem is that when you remove the trade-offs, then it loses a lot of its interest.
well, that's what I wanted to say about the combat wheelchair. Like, Wizards of the Coast fully embraced it, and like everyone who was against it was called a bigot and stuff. But like, you're a more powerful character with the combat wheelchair than without. There's like literally no negatives. It just gives you bonuses. Like, if you're a min-maxer, you will make a character that uses the combat wheelchair, basically.
I would love to see a group of combat wheelchair people in my game.
Yeah.
Because I would run Rapanathuk unapologetically. I'm sorry, your combat wheelchair sinks into the two broken stairs on the stairwell. You are in a rut. I need you to make a strength check 36 to be able to lift that dwarven contraption out of the broken stair. If you can't, you can stay there. You can guard the stairwell from attack. Maybe from the front, you'll have a little bit of defense available, but your face and your chest are open to the downhill side, and you are really not in a good spot right now. I'm just going to say that. Do you have a portable combat wheelchair you can unfold and pull out of your pocket, since you've pulled such a meaningless magic item into my fucking game, which has had numerous doctors and lawyers actually cut their teeth on true dungeon design over the years? I mean, please, how are you going to get out of this? I'm dying to know.
I'm a little bit different, Bruce. There's only enough room for one of you to go through, and it's down some winding stairs. Like, except the wheelchair, you can't do that.
Yeah, because
you're too wide.
Spikes on the side, like you're fucking Ben-Hur or something, right? I mean,
don't get me wrong. If I'm going to do like a Mad Max version of D&D, like I would be all for it. I'm like, okay, we can do the combat wheelchairs. You're like rolling down like murder ball. While we're at it, we'll just put some guns on you. That's fine if it's going to remind me of something from Rick and Morty. But that's not the game that I'm normally playing.
Well, I just glanced at the rules for a moment, and it's like, the chair like transforms with you when you're a druid. So like, there's like not even any negative with like being a druid and you turn into a bear, and like all of a sudden you're like a paralyzed bear in a wheelchair. Like, no, the wheelchair just magically becomes part of your bear form somehow.
My friend Russell Hartley, he's God. He's up there in 8 years. Anyways, you might have known him, Bruce. He's from the game room.
Little Russ, little guy.
What?
Little guy, right?
Yeah, kind of a little guy.
Yeah,
scrawny.
He's a scrawny little dude, probably about 65, 70.
Yeah.
Older. Yeah. I like Russ. He's a good man. His gaming partner died after about 10 years ago.
Yeah. I game with him and a few other people from the game room. normally on Tuesdays. That's why I stopped doing these for a while. But tonight's game was canceled.
No offense, I'm not trying to be a complete and total dickhead, but why are you here hosting a stream on Tuesdays? This isn't your usual night. What's going on? What's up?
Game got canceled, and I want to see who would show up.
What? Wait. What's going on with the game? What's going on with this?
Oh, Larry's sick. Larry was not up for gaming tonight, and we would be playing Babylon 5.
Do I know Larry?
He used to run the game room when it was across the street from Dairy Queen.
Okay, that's either before or after my time. So
that was before your time.
Okay. Oh, on 24 going into town. I remember. Yeah,
a lot of these guys are like decades on me, at least 20 years, and they're all really good guys, and I love hanging out with them. But yeah, they called game tonight, and well, I'm like, well, fuck it, I'm going to do this and see who shows up. And I'm glad for I appreciate the people in chat and you, Victor, and Mr. Al and Bruce, of course, for doing this because if I don't get to game, I might as well talk about game and other nerdy shit. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing for tonight. And I had like 5 hours to kill until the 5th. So I'm like, yeah, I can at least do 2, maybe 3.
See, I just finished up wrapping a module, not a module, but a video talking about David Giles' races for Dungeons and Delvers. And I split it between 2 videos kind of. And I'm like, ooh, there's classes. Let me start on this on a night where I'm fresh, and it's not like 9 o'clock already, motherfucker.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but tomorrow night I'll be debuting the stream that I did tonight, or the video I did tonight. So at about 9 o'clock, I'll probably have to go out and say hi to people, because that's what you do when you premiere a video on StreamYard. You sit in the background or sit in the chat and you just kind of say hi to folks as they come in.
Well, we do have tomorrow's Wednesday and we're doing Gatekeepers.
I know. I'm not hosting. I'm good.
Okay. No, just trying to find some more people that would be willing to fill up seats for the topic. But that's tomorrow's problem, not today's problem.
Topic is what?
How for players to deal with large creatures. It being giants.
Okay, that's Shadow's stream. Shadow's doing
it. Yeah, Shadow's doing it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So. I don't mean to take over our conversation. I'm an Al and Victor.
No. Trust me. Anyone that knows me knows I can out-talk all of you.
I'm just chilling.
I don't know you that well, okay? So listen, if you wish to display your ability to be a blabbermouth, like I love Janet to pieces. Janet's one of my favorite co-hosts. And on Monday nights, I get to be with her and we talk movies. And last night, I talked in 2 hours about 40 minutes or less.
About Mr. Brooks?
Well, see, you don't remember. See, Conall's like, Conall, I need to go to bed. He's like, well, okay, it's okay. I can do like half an hour. And at the end, Conall's like, I have to go to bed. If he remembers that one, and there's with Shadow, I think. Well, I used to work phones over at Dell, for tech support, so I can talk for 8 hours straight if need be. So that's why I'm like, I don't have any problems with it.
I have a hard time. I have a hard hour that I need to be in bed by now. So once we get to that point, I'm like, it was lovely talking to all you guys, but fuck off. I gotta go to bed.
I get it. I get that from Kai every Thursday. It's like, motherfucker.
Well, speaking of somebody who loves to talk, them.
I love Kai. I really do. Like I gave him a part of my Discord. Like, here you go. And I told Garrett, like, hey, fix the permission so nobody can delete this shit unless it's Kai deleting it. So if you go to my Discord, you want to hear more Kai. He's got Kai's musings where he just throws walls of text out there. I think he's dictating into his phone with things like comma, period, parentheses, quotation marks, things like that. I think he literally does that because he's put enough for a 32-page module already to be placed in the Discord. He's only had it for 2 days.
Oh wow.
Uh,
No, I mean I don't mind, when we talk about these things, but a lot of it is, again, it's not that. I think part of it is that there's a generational thing where people are afraid to say no. I mean, I have a friend of mine who's he's probably about 8 years younger, and another friend of mine who's probably about 15, 20 years younger, and they're so afraid to tell people no. I said, well, there are times I can work around with it, but there are other times I'm going, look, this is overpowered. No, we can't do this. You're gonna. It takes too much. Like, oh, okay, but it's so funny, these people, and I think that to be fair, I think there are certain players that know when they get DMs like this, because I know I used to do this. If they know that there's one they can push around, they will keep pushing and pushing, and whereas the ones they know, they're like, oh, okay, and so sometimes I think that it's the person that has the problem more than anything else. It's the they know the weak DMs, and they go to them, and those are the people complain the most about these players. In the meantime, like, no, you're not going to do it. Well, look, either you play my game or go find a different game. I'm just not for you.
I don't do this so much in Bruce's campaign. But I will. There is a line I know I can run with Bruce that he won't let me cross it whatsoever, and that's fine. I prefer that in the DM. But the asshole in me is like, how close can I run this line before it's just a hard no? But I appreciate that from my players, though. I want them to. There's a part of me that thinks the player should be part of the player's job, at least in not rule luring, but pushing. Yeah, I can't.
Lawyering, yeah.
To push
Okay.
the.
When the Dutch guy is correcting you, like, yeah.
And it's been a long day.
I don't hear what you Yankees say. It's lawyer. Damn it,
Lawyer.
As someone who grew up with phonetics.
Yeah.
Hey, Conall, where are you from, buddy?
The South. I'll just leave it at that because I've been
What
all over
part?
as a military brat. What's that?
What part of the South?
Oh, remember, I'm a military brat. I've been all over. So, Texas, Alabama, Florida, Kentucky.
Are you in Texas now?
Yeah, man. I've told you. You come up through. If you come up through Dallas, let me know.
I definitely will. I'm not coming up there anytime soon, mind you, but that you're on my list for Dallas.
Well, that's on the way to Dallas. I'm about 2 hours south of it. So
wait, Waco,
a little bit further south, but yeah, right there, around that area.
Temple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, Temple.
Okay. So I got some friends that live over by Tyler.
I
got
I'm
friends
on
that live over by
35.
Tyler. Whenever I do my grand trip over to Dallas for Reaper, I'm gonna have to stop over there in Temple and check you out.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll go grab some barbecue.
Oh, yeah, that's atypical, like Texas. Have you eaten yet? And then, like, the vehicle starts to rumble, and you get out of the driveway and go through the ranch and end up in a parking lot with a barbecue pit, or you're like at Driftwood, where when you're going to Driftwood at night, there's only one reason to go to Driftwood, and that's for fucking the Salt Lake barbecue. You see the lights through the trees about a half to a quarter mile before you get there, and you're like, what type of Six Flags is over here? Because there's a lot of lights here, and who's open at this time of night during the week in November? No, it's Salt Lake Barbecue, and you pull into the lot, and it's like the quarter size of Fiesta, Texas. Fiesta is Six Flags, Texas, okay? San Antonio, Six Flags. So it's a large, like a 25 to 30 acre parking lot. It's big, just a parking lot. Maybe
It's been, I'll be fair, the last time I went there was in 2005. For there, and it was pretty big then. And but yeah, that was, I had a girlfriend that took me out there. I was like, oh, okay. But but that's the whole thing to me. But yeah, Bruce, if you come up 35, let me know.
I'll do my best only to get on 35 after Georgetown.
Well, no. But I'm north of Georgetown, so you're okay.
Yeah, I know.
I gotta find a way down to Franklin's barbecue. I've been reading every time I'm like
It's
bring up good barbecue. Everybody's like, "Yeah, make it down to Franklin's. Gotta make it down to Franklin's." Every once in a while,
Bullshit.
I'll hear Whitey's.
Bullshit.
Where?
Okay, Salt Lake Barbecue over in Driftwood or over in Round Walk. What's a good Waxahachie barbecue there, Omanal?
Oh, well, Waxahachie, you know what? There was a place, I forgot what it was called. This sounds funny. It was in the middle of nowhere in the back. Just like a little place. It was by I think it's Waxahachie. It was over there. It was over by Joe Pool. It was a little place. I don't remember the name, but whenever my inspectors used to go out there, we'd always stop and get there, and they had some great ribs.
The only reason why I talk about Waxahachie is that you can sit somewhere in Waxahachie and stare at the Tesla Tower.
Yeah.
You know
the other place? Oh,
well,
God.
I've been to Hard Rock 8. I basically most of these places. If you go to Lockhart, Blacks and Smitty's.
Okay, Lockhart is just a cut and paste of New Braunfels on the 130.
Yeah.
And you've got Coopers and Blacks in Lockhart, which is half of the barbecue in Lockhart. The another quarter of it would be Chisholm Trail, which is
Chisholm Trail?
I was like, what?
I know Chisholm Trail. It sounds weird. It's an Indian thing. I don't fucking.
How would you spell that out for the people in chat?
Chisholm. Chisholm.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been to Chisholm Trail. I've been to Smitty's, Blacks, Barbecue.
Dude,
Smitty's. I think I can't. Whichever one's downtown is the one I like. Blacks. Yeah. Smitty's I've been to, and then there's another one that I can't remember.
Thanks, Al.
Well, speaking of coming, I have to go do the opposite. I have to go.
Oh.
So.
All right, Victor.
Yeah.
Why?
I just have other stuff to do, so it happens. Okay. But thanks for having me on, man. So it's fun like usual. So
yeah, we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, definitely,
Bruce,
man.
Hey, Bruce. He's afraid the sun will come up and he'll catch on fire. So
I mean, it is already 5 a.m. So
oh fuck,
that's starter numbers.
Yeah. I have to go do some stuff, and I'm hard at work getting my my Kickstarter set up. So yeah.
Are you drinking, Victor?
Well, yeah, I've been having a couple of beers.
I'll pound a shot with you. Or
no. Cheers. Prost.
Roast.
Saboja. I don't know. I got nothing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bruce. We actually need to get you on the Monday show sometime with the Basic Expert, or even on my Sunday show. Like if you're ever available,
What time is Sunday? What time American time do you have Sunday?
Let me look real quick.
4:00, right when I go on.
That's 11 p.m. Standard European time, so I'm not sure what that is in.
That's I think 4 Central. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be streaming until about 6 with my friend Makini.
Yeah.
And then we cut there, and then after that, if I'll start rooting around like, where's Victor? I know Victor's around here somewhere, and I got you on Discord, so I'm like,
yeah, definitely. And Mondays is 8:15 Mountain Time. Like that's the Basic Expert time. So whatever that is in your time zone.
It's 9. I mean,
1 hour after.
Yeah. Okay.
So the Conall, since you were talking about Franklin's, I've never been to Franklin's, even though it's only an hour
See you guys
away.
later.
See you guys.
See you later, Victor.
See you.
Thank you, sir. I'll tell you about my experience with Franklin Barbecue. I picked up this group of people in San Antonio at 4 a.m. And as we're rolling north on 35, which is a slowly acquiring speed trap, and not a speed trap is like you're going to get pulled over by cops. You're just going to slow to a stop. It's going to stop. This road will stop. Everybody will stop on this road. And you will all look at each other and you'll think, I have such a comfortable chair that I pay $800 a month for. So as we're going up there, I asked them, I said, where are we going? And they said, we're going to Austin. Don't you know? Didn't you check the map? I said, I saw something about it, but I'm going to go and look, see if I have an alternate route because we're just outside New Braunfels and it's 5 a.m. You've loaded a cart with you've loaded a, what's that stupid L-shaped cart with the wheels on it that you cart things off trucks with?
Yeah. You're talking about like the dollies?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've got a dolly in my car. It's a Honda Civic. There's not much room for a dolly in a Honda Civic. They've got a card table folded up in back of the Honda Civic under the dolly.
Oh, God.
They have a cooler that weighs 30 pounds of beer plus ice, which is another 22 to 28 pounds. And then they have board games. And I'm like, okay, well, you got all this stuff in my car. I assume we're going for breakfast. You're going for breakfast. You guys are like, yeah, if you want to come, yeah, more the merrier. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm taking you from San Antonio into Austin. My thought is we're going to be there about 7:30, and I want out as quick as possible. They're like, come on, when was the last time you were in Austin? I'm like, 2 weeks ago, and I'm not happy. And they're like, we'll try this. I'll give you an extra $100 tip. Just stay with us today. What? Just shut your phone off, and whenever we're ready to take a ride, we're going to pick you and your $100 tip, and we'll take care of all food. I'm like, okay. So I'm on like no sleep. I've been working all night, and we get breakfast. We sat for 2 hours from 7:30 to 9:30 in line with about 60 other people. I had 2 Lone Stars with other groups of people that just wouldn't take no for an answer. And now I'm in the middle of a game of Ticket to Ride that lasts 3.5 hours because we keep playing the fucking game. They got stuck on Ticket to Ride. I'm like, I wish you would have brought Dominant Species. Okay, so I'm a geek. We're playing this game at Franklin's Barbecue. We get our food at 11. 11:45, the cook walks out and tells the rest of the people in line, go home, we're at a barbecue. This is a daily occurrence there. We got there at 6:45, 7. I was early because I navigate. And I got there, and it was okay barbecue. I prefer going to Lockhart instead. Lockhart has 4 high-quality barbecue places. Lockhart's a town of like 10,000 people on the middle of a freeway a toll road where you can do 85 miles per hour around a major metropolitan center when there's no construction. The only other place you can do that legally in Texas or the States is over by Monahans, west of Odessa, going into hell, where there's nothing. But I'm just saying that if you want to do that, it's there.
I'm going to say as much as I'm only an hour away from Austin, and you know the barbecue here is pretty decent. It's called Chef's, and they have ribs to die for. That's what I like for. They have beef ribs. The problem is that they don't always have the beef ribs. But the other one I like is what do they call them? Is it armadillo eggs or quail? What I'm talking about is where they wrap the either chicken or quail and bacon with
quail.
It's quail with jalapeno popper in the center. Yeah,
there's very few jalapeno popper dishes that I don't know about, thanks to Austin, Texas, and the ridiculous amount of potheads which have made it into the kitchen trades.
So everyone talks about Franklin's, and my problem is that I really can't tell the difference between good and great barbecue, but I can tell the difference between good and bad barbecue.
That's great to see you have those, Conall.
Yeah, Costco has them for $28. 32 beers for $28.
Wow.
A 32 pack.
Yeah.
I need to try. I need to get this just so I can haul it.
I bought, and they're almost out. I bought 3.
You know what I need to do is I need to go to Specs and go find some blueberry beer, so I can bribe my ex, take my son back. No,
I mean,
actually,
I shouldn't laugh, but I mean, I have a daughter. I get it.
no, I'm teasing. No, I love him dearly. I don't mind if he stays with me, but he's getting fed up because he's not used to structure. Like, he got mad because he has a bedtime at 9:30. He's used to staying up till midnight with his mom, and I'm like, nope. You got to go to bed at 9:30, and then I wake him up about 8. So
There's nothing wrong with structure.
no, he just doesn't. He doesn't like it too much. But
As a kid, I hated it, but as an adult, I have to have it.
The way you learn to love structure is you start setting up appointments for your naps.
Yeah.
That's called lunch.
Well, yeah, when I was in the Navy, it was great because they give you an hour and you grab your food before lunch officially starts, and then you head to your rack and you just zonk for like an hour.
Well, I was working at Mossville, at one of the Caterpillar buildings in Mossville, and we got an hour lunch. And it's probably about a mile from my station to where my car was. And a lot of people's like, I'm just going to walk out to my car. I'm like, that's a fucking mile. That's no. Where are you going? I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be in the last stall in there if you need anything. What are you doing? I'm taking a nap. You're taking a nap in the shitter? I'm like, well, yeah.
I've been there.
But no, there was this barbecue place here in Peoria called Big O's. Mm-hmm. Not to be mixed up with Big Al's, but Big O's.
Big O's. I remember Big O's.
It was downtown in a more shadier aspect of Peoria. And
wait, what part of Peoria is not shady?
Heights.
Okay, where Barron lives. Okay, I can see that.
None of the Knolls are pretty nice too, but that's besides. It helps to have money to live in those areas.
What part was Kay or Priscilla's mom living in?
She was up there on the way to Pioneer Park, up there by Willow Knolls, which is also a nice little neighborhood. It just like the closer to the river you get, the more shadier it gets.
What are you saying?
I'm just saying, assholes come in all colors. But Big O's, the guy who ran it was a Mississippi man who moved to Peoria sometime in the 60s and opened up a barbecue place. They had the best barbecue to find in this area that wasn't commercial.
Was he a black man?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Was he friends with Richard Pryor?
Yes.
Okay. Did he drive when he came up here from Mississippi? Was he driving the tractor?
He might have been. Why?
There's a skit. I want to say it's on one of Richard Pryor's albums where Richard Pryor is talking about how they left fucking the South for Peoria. And there was a guy pulling their wagon, driving a tractor. So
I don't know. There was pictures of him and Richard Pryor all over the restaurant, so I don't know.
I mean, okay, if you're black in Peoria, that's just like a rite of passage. Like if you're before Gen X or if you're part of Gen X and you had something worthwhile, you got your photo with fucking Richard Pryor. Now, if you're Gen X, you're maybe 10 years old or younger with him. You're like the little boy in the Blues Brothers that's trying to steal the guitar, and Ray Charles shoots the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Ray Charles, I met him in Peoria. He is. They did to Richard Pryor what they're doing to President Biden. They're sticking him on the plane, putting him in front of people, and he doesn't know where he's at.
Yeah, but people like Richard Pryor.
Not Richard Pryor. Ray Charles. Ray Charles.
People love Ray Charles.
Oh yeah. And No, met him at the airport when I was picking up a family member. Me and my stepdad was looking at him like, we're not staring, but we're staring. I was like, that looks like Ray Charles. No. Fuck it. I didn't say fuck it, but, I might as well have said that,
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir. By chance, are you Ray Charles? He's like, yes, I am. And he reached out, and I shook his hand, and
You
it was really
grabbed his
cool.
hand and pulled it towards where you were standing at.
What?
I'm over here, sir.
Well, I was sitting in front of him, but yeah, he stuck his head in the chair, and I just like kind of moved to the left or whatever, But yeah, no, that was like of all the. I haven't met a lot of famous people, but the few I have met, he is definitely one of the best people out there. He passed away some time ago, but yeah, I enjoy the hell out of his music.
Man,
Oh,
I
yeah.
got scared as fuck today. I was driving into New Braunfels area, or just outside of New Braunfels, which is kind of like the Knolls for Peoria or Mount Zion for Decatur. And as I'm pulling into the Knolls or the hill for St. Louis, if Jade is watching, but I'm listening to the radio, and all of a sudden they say a country western star has died, and I'm like, please do not be Willie Nelson. Please do not be Willie fucking Nelson. Please do not be Willie Nelson. They're like, Loretta Lynn has died, and I'm like, whew. And I'm like, man, that's terrible. That's terrible, Bruce. Here you are begging about the fucking world's best pothead, and this lady had actual talent, and she overcame a lot of obstacles, become one of the number one best-selling country artists of all time. Thank God it wasn't Willie Nelson.
It's funny. Ozzy Osbourne just cut a new album.
Really?
Yeah, he has a bunch of people on there with him. Like, I can't think of the name of the title of the song, but he did a cover of it. He didn't do a cover, but he did a song with Eric Clapton.
Okay.
And I'm listening to the music. Don't get me wrong. I'm an Ozzy fan. I've always been an Ozzy fan. But I'm like, I could do without Ozzy. Just have more Eric Clapton. I'm like, I'm sorry.
You know what? I saw Eric Clapton last year in Austin. And he was only here in the U.S. for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I was my friend, his wife was supposed to go with him, and she canceled on him. And he's like, hey, you want to go? Sure, I'll go with you. Same way that I got to go see Rammstein. Rammstein was
oh yeah, I had friends who flew to Texas from Georgia to see them. Like, you're a bunch of idiots.
It was.
Ron Steinford's on the hell with Pyrotechnics show. Okay.
Geez, you couldn't even see. We were in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio.
Yeah.
I mean, this was just a couple weeks ago. I could not see to the other side. They put
they got photos on the web where you fucking have the pyros going off, and you got the fucking dome. The dome is glowing orange and red and yellow during the fucking show that they put on over there. The only thing I didn't go there because I like Rammstein, don't get me wrong, but I don't like live music. I really don't. I only like it at the Aztec Theater. The Aztec Theater is like a theater for like 50 people. And I saw Apocalyptica there back in 2015.
That's a band I haven't heard from for a while.
Oh, they just put out a brand new album. This has been a good year. We had Apocalyptica and Joe Satriani releases. Oh, boy.
I don't know. I've been on big blues and jazz kicks for like last month and a half. I don't know why, but I don't mind it because I like blues and jazz.
Okay.
You know what? I like blues. I can't stand jazz.
I stay away from jazz myself, but that's cool, man. That's yours. You claim it.
Yeah. Well, it surprised the hell out of Jade when I told him I listen to country music. He's like, I would have pegged you for listening to country music. I'm like, there's only 3 types of music I don't like: polka, disco, and techno. Techno.
You haven't been subject to Tejano yet. Because Tejano is like the foreign version of polka.
Oh God!
Yeah, all the beats, everything sounds the same as polka. Literally, it's like another version of circus music with fucking Spanish singers. It's all it is.
Oh God! What was the other one? The Who, not Rebel Daltrey, but a Mongolian band who does throat music.
I love that. Starts with an H.
HU.
Yeah.
They did a cover a couple years ago, or maybe last year, I don't know, with Pop Roach, Wolf Totem.
Yes.
And it's just I like music. I like music. I really do. It's just dope. Polka, disco, and techno will set me on my edges. I'm about ready to kill somebody.
I listen to a lot of synthwave, and I don't know why I listen to a lot of synthwave, but Volcor X is like the Joe Satriani of synthwave.
Yeah. I mean, to each their own. That and what's the other band I've been into of late? Poor Man's Poison.
What?
Yeah.
I just memed where like I'm Charlize Theron, and I'm like the what?
Poor Man's Poison. I'm trying to think of Hell's Coming With Me is a good one. There's a few of their songs that are just really good. And I've been digging them a little bit too. Somebody in chat, I think it was L, says, I was just reading the chat. What did he say up here? Conall, no, was it Chance is reserved? Is that what he said? I don't know. Chance is very reserved. Oh my, yes, Chance is very reserved because his player is an idiot.
No, you understand that I have a better mastery of Pathfinder than I did of 3.5.
Yeah. I love Pathfinder. I really do, and I enjoy the fuck that you run it.
Wait, you would think I wouldn't run it?
No, I know you'd run it. Well, until you have your own system panned out where you can run it full time.
Hey, Mark Markham.
I don't know. I mean, I'd be happy if I could find somebody who'd be able to do a crossbreed between Iron Kingdoms and Pathfinder. I think would be fun.
Iron Kingdom system or Iron Kingdom's world?
Iron Kingdom world.
It's easy.
I'll tell you this much: as much as they talk about Iron Kingdoms, I liked Hordes, or the
War Machine
Unleashed. Was the RPG version, because I like the Circle of Ouroboros and the and come on, who can't love trolls?
I love playing this.
I have a Troll Blood army.
You know what? I bought tons of trolls, and I need to at some point assemble them. So I have basically a Troll Blood and a Circle of Ouroboros army. I need to assemble and paint.
So, I don't know. I just like playing the race note, which was nothing more than an elf, a winter elf version. But whatever. But I just really like the race.
I like. What's funny is I like the Unleashed where you could play Gatorman. You could play.
You can only play Gatorman if you can pull off a decent Louisiana accent.
King John accent.
What I liked about it is the well, you're right. You did that. I like the fact that they had the guns. I mean, to be fair, is I liked Unleashed for all the different things that you had in there. You had trolls. You had the Gatorman, the Pharaoh. I was like, you know what? This is really cool. And what was the other ones I liked? They're the little goblins. Anyway,
the pigs.
No, I forgot what they're called. Well, there's like a good version, there's a bad version. So there's a good version in Iron Kingdoms, and there's a bad version in Unleashed. But yeah, like Calvione said, is those minis for use in other games. I'm not usually in the 1800s because that's the way I feel about that. But I kind of like that steampunk for Iron Kingdoms.
I thought Iron Kingdom's world, the steampunk was refreshing compared to
Ebron.
Everything else
that time period, yeah, because either it was high fantasy with 3.5 Shadowrun. I just had a bad DM. I either had a bad DM or I just don't like the game. I have yet to figure out which of the two it is.
I'll be honest. I like Shadowrun as long as you get rid of Astral. I don't like the whole Astral aspect to it. Because that's just the problem is that you basically have three different things. You got the web, you basically have the Matrix, you have the real world, and then you have Astral, and then you're trying to play all three simultaneously. And if you don't have a mage, then it's one of those that I don't mind it as far as like modern gun combat. I think it actually does pretty decently for that. And I don't mind the cyberware, and I don't mind having a little bit of the magic, but I don't like anything that has to do with the astral plane.
See, that's kind of weird because I just hate everything about Shadowrun after you get over the fact it's fantasy with technology, and it should work. But like even Gibson says this is fucking stupid.
Well, my problem is that I actually, for the longest time, I really hated the, and how they broke up the United States and everything. And this makes no sense from a demographic standpoint.
No.
But, like, oh, well, we're going to do this with Denver. I said, I don't mind it if I mean, you just let me change the rest of the world and it's fine. I don't mind it too much. But as I get older, I just want, I don't, like I said, I don't have too many problems, but I liked 4th edition. I liked 2nd better than 1st. I never played 3rd. But once I got to 5th, I was like, wait a minute, you take all the good things from 4th and then just kind of ignored them? It got, 4th was really hitting stride, and then the guys who run Catalyst screwed over the freelancers, and it went downhill from there.
See, I think everything about Shadowrun, aside from the artwork, is shit. And I'm going to never get off that. I'm absolutely thinking that Braum and other early Shadowrun artists were amazing, and it was cool because he had mullets and big long leather coats, and he had a fucking guy with a keyboard trying to plug in directly to a fucking door and get into the hacking of it before we had Wi-Fi hacking.
Yeah,
I think it's really cool. I really do, and I really thought the riggers were awesome.
That was the one thing that I had a problem with, is that they lost a lot of that flavor with riggers, because I liked the fact that riggers were different than deckers.
But I absolutely hate everything about Shadowrun. And over in Tinkar's Tavern, there's the creators for Shadowrun, and they're all butthurt because I say that over and over and over again, because to me it's a shit game. You have a really good set of artwork with a pile of shit for over 5 editions. You got to be proud.
Like I said, I liked 4th edition, or the 20th anniversary, and that was about it. I did not like once I went to 5th. The problem was I needed some really good editors. Like I said, it was seeming to hit its stride for 4th. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I said, but I said I can work with this. I like the dice pool rather than just using the variable target numbers. I liked some of the system for it. I really liked 4th. Okay. And I said, it's a game system I could work with. And I like the fact that they started having optional rules and stuff. But as soon as they screwed over the creators, it was really hitting its stride, and then it blew up. And they lost a lot of their main creators who had read like every book and everything else. And
the original fucking novels,
Yeah, well, I mean, they read everything. So, that's the problem I think that we're having with, this new WotC stuff. These people don't really love D&D. They're doing it because they couldn't find a job when they got out of college. And they said, oh, well, at least they're hiring over here. And if you get people that really love it, they'll go all the way back and say, let me go read first, the white box, and then the 1st edition, and then 2nd edition, 3.5. So let me take out the best of all of this. What reminds me of is what was it, when Ethan Van Sciver was talking about Green Lantern, when they told him to do the artwork.
Yeah,
he said, let me go find out why these people love it so much, and you can tell that there's a love there, and you don't get that from them. It's what it is these people are disappointed that they got stuck doing this job and they're waiting for some other job to get into.
That's it. That's all it is to it. This is a temporary job. There's a holdover. This is a breadcrumb job. I'm going to have a trail of breadcrumbs go to my perfect job, but this ain't it.
I mean, we can all I know that DM James and I understand on Twitter with Monty Cook, but what is her name? Shauna Germain or whatever her name is. She actually writes really good settings. I think she does an excellent job for that. I may disagree
What
with.
has she written? Because you say that I have no idea who he, whatever it is.
She wrote Predation. I mean, she works for Monty Cook Games, so if you don't like the Cypher system, you won't be familiar. But
Okay.
she wrote
Did
Predation.
she write before Cyber? Because I don't know Cypher at all. I saw him release it and I'm like, that's great. But did you do anything on Tolus or Monty Cook games or no?
I don't know if I think she's written some of the other stuff. I do know that she's written Predation, which is one of my favorites, which is basically when you talk about time travel, the idea is that they sent all these people back in time and the time machine broke and they can't come back to this time, but it's like right before the meteor's supposed to hit during the Cretaceous. So you have all these dinosaurs and high technology. So you get some dinosaurs with like lasers and crap like that.
So she made a new version of lasers and dinosaurs and Cadillacs.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not familiar with dinosaurs and Cadillacs. I'm just saying I like the fact of all of the background settings she did for it. It's one thing to say you have lasers, dinosaurs with lasers, but she did a really good job for writing the setting aspect for it.
I'm not upset about your love for it, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not.
No, that's fine.
As long as she stays away from DM's Guild, I'll be happy. But
well, and to be fair, I don't disagree with you. But I'm saying is I have to give credit where some people do it, but for someone to put that effort, you can tell if they love what they're doing.
Yeah.
And whether I agree, and the love comes out in a lot of stuff. But boy, when people are doing it to just get a paycheck, you can tell it in the game. You can tell it's not well tested. It's not well thought out.
I'm going to piss off Shadzar or L, whatever his name is, but I'm saying that like they did no playtesting with second edition at all, and so games that were supposed to be fun and big and broad, like Dragon Mountain, nobody tested it. It was written. That's great. Nobody tested it. They got stuck in the first book for playtesting. That's it.
Well, there was other modules from earlier editions that modules came out, and even if they were like, well, we'll think about pumping out a new edition here in a couple of years, for 3.5. It was back in the heyday of 3.5. There was like one or two modules in there. I'm like, I don't think anybody actually read through this. I think they just pumped it out just to pump it out.
I'll say the saving grace of 5e and 3.5 is the third party. The third party is really, I mean, just like you're talking about Iron Kingdoms. Iron Kingdom is Privateer Press. That is not WotC. That is not any of that. Well, did they play test 20? Absolutely, they did. But am I saying that it was, that? But yeah, like Maleki says, Lorraine Williams didn't allow people to play in the offices. Okay, that's the problem that you have with it is people. If this is part of their job is running it, whether you like Gygax or not. Gygax ran a game, almost every night with different players. And anyone that has read his player's guide or the Dungeon Master's guide, he talks about, and I know Shadow doesn't like the level limits, but he specifies why he did it in game balance. He specifies some of his design decisions in those books.
Here's the thing, and I was been thinking really hard about, not really hard, but I've been thinking about this. What he did is he set the ball rolling. You pick up a snowball, right? You make a snowball, you roll it down the mountain. It picks up more mass and more mass and more mass. And, if you ever watch the cartoons, right?
Yeah.
Every once in a while, it runs over a turd.
Well, here's what I'm going to say is, it's like all these people who complained about Tolkien. Well, I'd like so-and-so that's better for the writing. Yeah, but you broke the ground so everyone else could go forward through it. That's what gets me about all of this is, do I think he's the greatest effort? No, I like other systems better. But for what was out there that he and Dave Arneson did, and then what he really took, further from that, and he played a lot. And then, if I had to compare 1E versus Palladium, Palladium I like in some areas and I don't like in others. But, at the end, I'm kind of going, I would rather just play the regular OSR or OSE just because it's a bit simpler rather than trying to figure out all these different aspects. But I understand where they came from it. But I thought Star Frontiers. Oh, there's Shadow. I thought Star Frontiers.
What's up, guys?
Simplified so much of these other games and I like the skill-based system. It was perfect for me. I don't need anything overly complex, and it came with chits and a lot of other stuff that other games didn't. So you didn't have to buy miniatures. You didn't have a lot of these other things. You had pre-made maps. I mean, they got overused, but I'm like, oh, okay. And the modules used them. It wasn't like they were thought after the fact. They integrated them into the modules. One through three.
We got
Somebody's echoing.
Uh-oh. Oh.
Well, we found out who was echoing. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I mean that was the thing that got me. But in TSR before Lorraine Williams, they came out with numerous games. And what amazed me is when you look at the Dragon magazine. Look at the little board games they had. I used to love getting Dragon magazine because it wasn't just for one system. But the other part was, and we all remember this. What is the one where they do the Play-Doh and you smash it and give different attacks to your monsters?
Yeah. You got hard at level 5. You topped out.
There was that game. They had another one where you had to look for elephant tusks. I forgot what that one was called. It was but they would have the little cardboard in the center. You do it. You cut out the little chits. Those were brilliant games that, it's like, look, even if I don't want to play D&D, I can play a little board game and it's 100% complete, and it was fun.
Yep. Hey, really quick, I want to say hi to my friend. First, I want to say hi to Shadow, brother that I never knew I needed, and my other brother, First Marshall, who, unfortunately, you both are fucking stuck with.
Well,
Shadow Man.
Movie.
Nothing much. Okay, he's not frozen, smart ass.
Yeah.
See,
I'm good. Somebody's got an echo and it just blasted really hard.
1, 2.
I don't know.
Not me.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I don't hear an echo now.
But talking about playtest, I don't see that for 5e that much. I don't even see that much for the 1D&D. It would have been nice if they'd come over and they talked about things and some of their design decisions, even if I don't necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think we'd ever see that.
Well, they're doing one. It's a very weird play test, but they are play testing D&D 1 for better or worse.
No. What I meant is I'd like to see their design decisions of why they're doing things, and whether if you start reading the 1E Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide, he starts putting down, at least in the forward, of why he did certain things, and that's the one thing that I think that's really good from a design standpoint is for other people who want to get into this.
Yeah, for all its faults, the original Dungeon Master's Guide had so much more helpful information in it than a lot of the other books. The second edition Dungeon Master's Guide was tiny, was absolutely tiny, and poorly constructed. The appendixes alone from the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide had so many useful chapters in it, so many things. Making your own monsters, sound effects, smells, room descriptions, all kind. I mean, literally, to this date, I'd have to look at the 5th edition DMG and the 4th edition DMG. Fat chance on that one, but to see how much information they keep carrying over, because the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide just it literally had everything you needed. If you only had the first 3 books, and I know a lot of old school players, that's all they ever used. That's all they needed. It literally had a great way to make up your own monsters and demons, rules.
The templates were awesome.
Yeah, it was just of course, the magic items and all the different things for siege warfare, building castles, all that stuff is missing from later editions. It's a separate book. Because why? Because they could fluff it up and make more money.
Well, again, I don't mind if they make more money for it, but just make sure that whatever you're producing is quality, and I don't mind that as much. But the other thing I looked at is for the first edition was that it really did explain why certain rules were in there, and I love the fact that it gave you alternate uses for your spells, and that's the problem that with 5e has right now is it's not telling you alternate uses for spells or how they work. Like when you go through, you could flip through it and it says, oh, if you use this spell, what is it, stone to flesh, and it says you can do this against a wall and it works this far. I mean, they really did a good job on that.
And the whole reversible, just with that one word, you could reverse a spell. It's a separate spell, but it's a new spell, and it does the exact opposite of the previous spell.
There's a guy on TikTok, the DM therapist is, and Max has showed him on his channel.
I really want to listen to somebody that's using TikTok.
Yes, and here's why. There's a few things he said that I think are absolutely. Most of what he says is absolutely gonzo, and it's just out of this world bullshit that I would never even think of. And I appreciate that because it gives me a little bit more not creative, but it just makes me think about random shit. One of those things he said he had a druid that put awaken. You know how you make like animals sentient where they're able to take class levels?
My favorite druid spell. Or
right, he did that to a banana. Then the banana took wizard levels.
Yeah.
Now the banana is a necromancer. And I'm like, okay, this is bullshit, but
there's always ways to cheese a game and make something completely off the wall that just works because the rules are there. It's just fun to utilize that manipulation, and to be honest, like Awaken, like I said, is my favorite divine spell. Clerics get it, like they're like, oh, you want let's just say I wanted an army of sentient pit bulls. I can do it.
All I can think is Rick and Morty. Where are my balls, Summer?
Oh, Snowball. Yeah, it's.
But that Awaken spell's got that cool 30-day willbound too, or some senses they've tweaked it and stuff like that and changed its timeline and how much it couldn't apply. But I remember it being like a 30-day. After 30 days, the creature gets its own will back and can choose to follow the caster. And then technically you have to make a character sheet for it. It is a sentient creature and it has at least average stats. And if it has any augmentations because of what type it is, cat, dog, bear, whatever,
banana,
they get those stats too. And then they start building class levels because they can.
But it's humor like that I think is absolutely just fucking needed in this hobby. I want to listen to somebody, and this is not getting to anybody on this panel, but I just want to listen to somebody for 5 seconds, 30 seconds, just making fun, but not making fun of us, just making fun of the hobby, just having shits and giggles that are worth having. Taking a banana, putting Awaken on it, it takes wizard levels, then becomes a lich banana. I would have never thought of that.
No, Conall. I wouldn't let it get magic user spells, but it could become a thief because it's a slippery customer.
Damn.
So when it summons undead, does it like just summon half-eaten bananas and banana peels and stuff like that? Is that the creature?
Or other rotten fruit.
Yeah, something of that nature. Yeah. Yeah,
so,
that was, guys, first edition was full of stuff like that, especially Dragon Magazine. It was full of that. The artwork, that was one of the great things about the artwork in the old books. They were, black and white, one frame, cartoons or comic strips or however you want to, classify it. The classic picture of the characters wearing the paper nose and the Mickey Mouse ears about to raid the Were-Rat temple. This had better work. The +4 back scratcher. all kinds of stuff like that. That they went full on hardcore, serious as a heart attack from that point on, second edition, etc. I don't know about Dragon Magazine. I stopped collecting it before second edition, I think. So I don't know if they kept up that stuff. They had the cartoons in the back, the comic strips, Phineas Fingers. I mean, come on. How many of you guys have read Phineas Fingers? You remember that guy?
I don't remember. All I remember was Snarf Quest.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
Dark Quest, and I remember Trampy, the fucking dragon. Yeah, I remember that.
And
shit.
Wormy.
Yeah. I remember that. Well,
All that stuff was classic. I forget the guy and the girl comic strip at the end. Also, I forget what that was.
Phil and Dixie, Phil
Right.
Foglio.
Exactly, stuff like that is just the game just seems to have been sterilized of humor like so many things these days, and if you've listened to Bruce's game, there's more joking around than anything else. No offense or anything.
It's a fairly serious game, and I think that's why there's so much joking around. I mean,
if you guys didn't take that game and run with a few jokes here and there, you guys would be cutting your fucking wrist later because I inspired you to listen to fucking Robert Smith from The Cure for 2 albums, and then you'd be fucking just like, I understand everything you said, Robert.
Down the sidewalk you go.
You know what though is, and I agree with you, Shadow. Is I remember collecting Dragon Magazine. Then I noticed the quality started going off during second edition because they stopped having the variety of different games in there. Because I remember the old one before they would have it as they had the Star Frontiers, but they also had games that were not
TSR.
It was the old
They had a bunch
Paranoia.
of games
If
in
anyone
there.
remembers this, was it second edition Paranoia? They literally lifted that article and put it in their book. If
Right.
you remember that.
Traveler articles like Crazy Villains, Vigilantes, just Aftermath. You name the game, it was in that magazine at one point or another, other than those really, really off the wall. And obviously Arduin wasn't in there because everybody had kind of a hate on for Arduin for a while there. But, just about every game that was...
Rewind. Why did people not like Arduin? I'm not understanding the hate for Arduin.
Because in the beginning, Gygax was pissed that it was basically a ripoff or trying to be a supplement to D&D without permission, even though it was its own game. But it was formatted the same way as the original D&D books, folded in half, stapled in the middle, photocopy paper. They were doing whatever they could to just get content and material out there. And trust me, when Arduin comes back next year, as you guys will see, I'm kind of working with the guys, trying to help them out in any way I can to get Arduin back in the mainstream because it's got the biggest balls of any game out there. They're literally gonna have the slaver still. It was always a profession from the first book on. You want to be a slaver? Here you go. You want to run an evil campaign? Here you fucking go.
Can you be a slaver and still be in a good campaign?
Not
Maybe.
really.
I mean,
I
you have to play a neutral character.
All I can
Means
see,
Yeah,
the
I
end
mean-
at that point.
I don't personally think that would be, a thing to try just because of the concept itself. But, every table's different, and I'm sure there's going to be some table out there running a bunch of lawful good freaking slavers out there, for their own good, whatever. I did, that's
So
not really
the way
what
I'm
I-
looking at that one is I don't know the races in it, but you're a huge wars going on, and you're fighting hobgoblins, and it's your job to keep the forges going back home. So you take these hobgoblins and you attach them to the war machine. So they're banging out armor, they're banging out swords, they're throwing rocks out of the field so you can have next harvest.
Mhm.
But they're not.
I'm sure you could justify it, or if you could actually turn them into good, then who knows? I mean,
I mean, it's a stretch. I'm not saying
Yeah,
it's going to be
absolutely,
easy.
absolutely. But it's going to have a lot of other cool stuff in it. It was the original. It's the origin of the crit and the fumble table. They were the first people. They created that, or he created. David A. Hargrave created the crit, created the fumble, created so many other things, along with bringing the word Gonzo to the gaming world. It all started there, and when it hits the bookshelves, it's going to be a blast.
Oh, of course, sing it.
You're not fitting me in all of this. I mean, you're kind of turning me on.
Gross.
I'm just saying, like, I'm getting a little bit of mahogany.
I'm just thinking, Bruce.
I will, Bruce. I will be happy to pass that along to George.
Whoa, wardage there, bud. Wardage.
So this whole situation that just happened reminds me of an effect that is kind of going on right now. Since we talked about bringing hilarity into your campaign setting, and then just making a character that just seems outlandish and awful but just works, or something like that. We've been messing with a potential subclass for the barbarian in 5th edition, and trying to map out something, and it be like something S tier. But the character itself is what I want to talk about. His last name is Schwarzenegger. His last name literally is 2 dick jokes. And his first name is Conall.
Oh God.
It's Conall Schwarzenegger. And he's like a 6'7" muscle bound barbarian, Conan-esque, and he happens to be like flamboyantly gay, but in order to be flamboyantly gay, you have to say it as Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, yeah, I brought the lube.
Mary,
wait a minute. He has to be a black man, and he has to wear those little the super shorts with the spike collar to get the armor class bonus.
Dolphin short.
For hilarity, we're gonna use loincloth structure.
No.
Because
Did you ever see the Dave Chappelle with the gayification of America?
Yeah.
And they have the guy that's mowing the lawn. That's what I'm thinking that the barbarian has to dress as to get the armor class bonus.
I can't help but thinking of Shorely from Venture Brothers.
Oh,
Jack, if you're watching this, Jack, go to bed.
Turn it off. Turn it off, Jack. This is bad for you.
But it's really funny because the jokes just kind of become literally realistic and organic. Like, there's a concept now that the character senses something is amiss with his nipples, and he'll tell people, "Stop, my nipples are jiggling." And then he'd be like, "There's danger ahead." And then whoever in the party's like, "How do you know?" He's like, "Because I have an erection." Just stuff like that. Like, it's just constant jokes. It feels cool. And when we get to the playtest at Variety, my DM crew and I were going to sit down and play test through these subclasses and see if they work.
What are your other subclasses? Is it chainmail, bikini, fighter? And...
No, like literally just we built the character already for the barbarian because it's a specialized tank. It's supposed to be a tank subclass specifically for the barbarian. They have rage passives that they can use special abilities to deflect and reflect damage while raging. So like they rage so hard they can just kind of nah, you don't get this. And
wait.
And it's just literally designed as a toe hold, stand there, take some shit, barbarian, and deal some out.
All I can think is the grapple, a special grapple attack called the reach around.
Oh my God!
You should see my bag of holding. It is filled with 7 penises.
Dear
They are
God,
my war trophies.
we're all going to hell.
All right, if 3 people are still watching this show, I want to rename this to the Conall and whatever, the Bob and Tom of the Midwest. or whatever comedian schlock jock that you listen to. Welcome to the D&D twist. Just fuck's sake.
It's like, but seriously, it's like it's people forget that we actually build characters, that we actually build storyline driven aspect, partial creations of our mind that flesh out all this stuff. It's good stuff. It's fun to do. I write stories off some of my characters now, like little short stories. It's pretty cool.
That is
Continue
great.
the legacies. We play platform campaigns that we have created ourselves with the lore as characters ourselves, just to play a different campaign that we already had ideas about. And just laying groundwork and make your world and have fun. Like how hard is that?
I got a question for you, First Marshal.
Yo,
What are you doing on Wednesday nights? Because you have been a DM for some time.
yeah, like 20 or 17 years. Yeah.
Wesley Brister shows up. Hello, sir.
Yeah. I've
What's
been
happening,
playing,
Wesley?
I've been playing for 25 years. Wait, hold on. No, 22 years. I've been playing for 22 years. Yeah.
Well, the reason why I ask is if you're not
Yeah.
doing anything on Wednesday nights, you need to dial into Gatekeepers that will be hosted this week by Shadow. And I
Nice.
think
No.
you can get some tidbits from it.
No.
Oh,
The shadow.
Nope.
oh,
The shadow.
I'm not doing gatekeepers. I'm doing table breakers.
You'll be,
Then
you'll be running the panel, but it'll be broadcast over on my channel. But
sure. Put the link in description. I kind of work late. You guys will start before I get off
Who's
work.
who's doing gatekeepers tomorrow? It's
but
Jade,
whoever's
right?
doing it.
Right, Jade. Yeah, Jade, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
you need to check us out. I tell you what, I will definitely send you both links tomorrow and Thursday. Come check us out. And
Yeah.
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 It's a shame that you get. I really wish you had earlier shift, because next time I do Gatekeepers, I would love to have you as a guest to talk about some of the DMing stuff that we talk about, because
Oh yeah.
your experience, I think, would be fun to watch.
Right.
I'm just
my
saying,
worlds have been fun. I've been told. Yeah.
I just think that we need offensive stereotype RPG.
Absolutely.
I can do.
We
Yeah.
can build it. We can build it. I'll bring Conall Schwarzenegger to the table because this dude is hilarious.
We just have to create the proper system for it, somewhere
Yeah.
between paranoia and DCC, somewhere in there.
All right. It is about that time for me to call it.
Sure.
So I'm going to start off with thank you, Shadow, for going and showing up, even though it's like only got a few minutes out in the spotlight.
Yeah, no worries. I had a game earlier, and then I had to record a video for our channel, and I'll be doing another video tomorrow before Gatekeepers, and another video Thursday. Blah blah blah. Our channel. We do something just about every day for you guys.
That sounds fair. All right. So, Omanow, what do you got going on? When are you going to come out with your own channel so we can pick on you?
Oh, you know what? I've probably never, just because, like I said, is I would do other stuff than D&D, because I'd rather just let you guys get all of the goals for it. But I will say as much as we need to figure out a good weekend to start the Pugmire stuff. But
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to just wait till James gets done with his visit with his mom. I would not want to take away from that.
Yeah.
Well, look, James has done his, and then my parents are visiting early November, and then we pretty much get Thanksgiving right after that. So I mean, it's
It's going to be the beginning of the next year, by the way it sounds.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm figuring. Unless because unlike most of, like, I don't mind doing stuff around Christmas, but most people I know want to spend time with their family. So
Do you have like a campaign ready or started or anything like that?
I don't have anything ready yet. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I mean, I have an idea. I just need to create like the first adventure for that. And then
You might want to wait and have everybody roll up characters, just so you can have it like a little bit of a, some groundwork.
Extra
I mean,
time. Yeah.
well, that's what I want with
Establish the
everyone
environment.
first. Is I
Do the
want
pub
that.
scene. Put them in the same room.
Yeah,
Sorry.
well, I mean, that's what it'd have to be, is everyone get
Yeah.
together. Let's create the characters out. Everyone knows
Mhm.
what everyone's doing. You know,
Mhm.
I like having a group of 4 people. So Conall, you, and
James.
James. But then the question is, who else? I don't know if Hungar would be interested.
Maybe my son. My son's really interested, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to have somebody, brand new kind of thing. Just to see how that works.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have that. I like to have 4, no more than 6. I don't like 3 is my very bare minimum.
Yep.
But yeah, that's what and for D&D, you really kind of need 4. You need a magic user, a cleric, and like a fighter thief.
You need the pyramid of shame for
Basic
D&D.
4.
The 4 food groups.
Yep.
The pyramid of shame. And all right. So what about you, Bruce? What do you got going on?
Well, Thursday night we're running Table Breakers. I believe Shadow's going to be doing the topic. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Cool.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So the topic is
How to breathe life into like old low-level monsters that are
give me
past their prime.
Dig it.
a chrome
Yeah.
upgrade. Okay.
I forget what the title was. I wrote it down. It's been a long day.
Right on.
You give me the title after this stream, or throw it in your Discord, or throw it in the email, and I'll put it up on the StreamYard site.
How's this? I got a way for words. You want a title? I think I got one for you.
Go ahead.
All right. So it's about still having fun at level 1.
Okay.
That's actually pretty good. Yeah.
I don't know
Still
if
having
it's
fun
one,
with the goblins. They're still. I don't know. Yeah, I see where you're going with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I came up with a title. It sounds better than what I just
My
said.
bad.
And what you just said sounds like something that could be completely different. Talking about, I don't know about you, but I'm burnt on running first level campaigns
Yeah.
and being in first level games.
Right.
I've done it all. You name the profession, I've run it from first level 0 to hero. Burnt,
Right.
totally burnt out. Unless it's something totally brand new like Pugmire or something like that, I don't give a fuck. I'm done. I've been playing this game for 42 years. You name it, I've done it. You name the system, I've probably played it, unless it came out in the last 15 or so years, then probably not, because I've got literally close to 300 different games in my collection, and I'd rather play an old game that I already paid for than go out and spend $100 to play a game that might collapse after 8 games. So, it's got to really be something special.
Oh, damn it, you insult my pronouns.
What?
Just kidding.
Who said that?
So
Is that L still being cantankerous?
I'm just
Yeah.
throwing it out there that whenever we've got Shadow on board, for those of you that cannot watch Karate Kid without a cringe meter by your side, you probably don't want to be here.
That's a nice disclaimer. I really like that one. Like if I saw that flash across the video, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm watching this. I don't care if it's 3.5 hours."
Oh! You know what? I wish Streamer could do it, but it would be great if there was that little ticker at the bottom that would scroll across as you would put these things down at the bottom.
Oh, the banners. Yeah. I need to learn how to use this better. All right, this is what I got going on. I'll be hanging out with Shadow and Jay tomorrow for Table Breakers and whoever else. Gatekeepers. Then Thursday, I'll be at Table Breakers where we'll be talking about Shadow's point of view on bringing new life to beaten down dogs.
I mean, that's a good one too.
All right.
Because instead of there's one wolf, there's 2. Oh God, 2 wolves.
All right, so that's Thursday. Friday, you'll most likely find me hanging out with Max. Saturday, this coming Saturday, if I can talk somebody into it, I might be bringing up a new topic called Dagger / Belgarth. We have a huge community out there who play Double Dip, who play Dungeons and Dragons, all tabletop RPGs, and do the sport. Now, I'm thinking that's going to be my side hustle every other Saturday, because it can't be every Saturday because I miss Bruce's campaign too damn much. But with that being said, I want to thank the panel for being here. I want to thank chat for chatting along. And for everybody else, you all have a good night. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Granted, that really doesn't leave much.
Oh,
And it also depends on what state you live in.
All right, take care.
Be well,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
All right.
have a good night.